That's the first and second place cars coming in to the pit lane, and Augusto Farfus has just been in and has gone back out again. Nicky Katzberg is in 4th position. They'll sort themselves out. LMP3, Spencer Piggott for Riley leads his teammate Dylan Murray by getting on for a lap now. 74 from 91 with 47 Motorsports, the best Duquesne, the only Duquesne actually, but is in 3rd position. Stephen McAleer just 21 seconds back now from Dylan Murray, who's been racing Porsches as well, hasn't he, in recent times. Mikkel Jensen leads from PR and Matheson Motorsport in LMP2, from Kyle Tilley in 2nd in the number 18 Era Motorsport Orica, and Gabby Aubrey for Tower in the 8 car in 3rd. At the front of the field, Jonathan Bomarito by 1.5 seconds from Philippe Albuquerque, who passed Kevin Magnussen recently, so it's 55.10 and 0.1. That's how it stands as we have 4 hours and 10 minutes to go. Live coverage of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring on IMSA Radio. So just after 6 o'clock in the 6 o'clock afternoon or evening, I suppose that's depends which bar you're sitting at, really, doesn't it? I suppose. Nick Damon is back with us as our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. Well, breathless, mate. Absolutely breathless.
It's all going on. I mean, I watching the first about hour and a half of my break on Twitter, so I saw various little clips and strange things happening. Obviously, very exciting discussion we had about flagging. That was good. But yeah, the coming together of the leaders was a couple of the prototypes pretty impressive, and then of course then the lower down prototypes came together as well. They're obviously not carbon fibre, obviously magnetic and metal, aren't they?
Well, they're definitely attracted to each other. Absolutely there.
It's Tinder for racing cars.
Could be. Swipe right, and off we go. Yeah, swipe right and fire right. That's what happened with Felipe Nasser there. So, Jeremy, we got all the GT Le Mans cars going through. I'll come back to that thought in a minute, because we've got the leader from GT Daytona in Nick Damon, the Lamborghini from Paul Miller, into the pit lane now.
It's a nice leisurely stop because they know they can time everything to the fuel. Out has got Corey Lewis. Corey, God. But this problem there with John, I printed out the entry form in a very small font, and I haven't got my glasses on yet. Never forget, I have another birthday coming up on Tuesday. So getting into the Lamborghini. I'm not sure the rotation. I'm sure that
Madison Snow that was getting in.
I'm sure Shay would recognise him. So Formula, yep, we're going to need to add another widget, because not long after before I left in the last stint, they'd had it coming together, hadn't they, with the blue and white Porsche, and they trundled through the pit lane a bit early.
Hasn't seemed to slow that car down at all. Jeremy, I was about to say the GT Le Mans pit stops have cycled through. Nicky Katzberg back at the front after that missed communication, but he is due in. He must be due in any time now, because everyone else has made their next pit stop and he hasn't. He's got 43 seconds, mind you, so he's...
Yeah, we've seen that number 3 car. He did come in a little bit after everybody else, if you remember, on that last round of pit stops, because he missed the call to come in when everybody else did. So he's got maybe a lap or two. It was under caution, so maybe a lap or so extra fuel on board compared to the other two, probably 2 laps actually. But more importantly, the number 3 car has shown really good fuel economy through this racing. It has tended to stay out longer than the other GTLM contenders in any case. Number 9 car, here's the pits at wholesale pit stops at GTD right around about now.
Yeah, all right, smack on time. 30 laps is about the right number for a GT Daytona car. The plaid Porsche is the FAF plaid Porsche, and both of the Lexus as well, Nick Damon.
I've noticed that from Shea, who is the queen of this pit lane, we've officially thrown Lexus now. I was
just Lexus.
I'm much more on the Lexi myself, with the sheep situation. They're both popping down. Both the Vass Sullivan cars, and I didn't see which way they came in, but leaving first is the 14, piloted, searching through numbers by
well, it was
Carl Kirkwood.
It was Kyle who brought it in.
He did run, I was looking at the different car further on. So I'm desperately catching up here on various bits of timing.
Frank Montecalvo brought the other car in, and I can confirm that Kyle changed over to Jack Hawksworth in that car.
I'm rather looking forward to this, because this is going to be the session where it goes into darkness. Having not seen that on television, but actually getting to see it fade down and come back up again, it's quite exciting. I mean, obviously, if they had a proper sunset over Sunset Bend, I think it's too cloudy for that, but still, we might get some light blinding of the drivers as they come down the Elmer Straight.
It's half a chance. Weather has been playing ball. Still, temperature just dropping slightly. It seems to be about 1 degree Celsius or so every hour. Air temperature is down to about 19 now, which is about 66 Fahrenheit. The track temperature is holding up pretty well. That's still sitting at 20. It's close to 70. And at the front of the field, let's see where we are due. Pit stops next. As far as the lead battle is concerned, well, we knew that Nick Katzberg was going to be in shortly, Nick, and he has indeed come in, having assumed the lead.
But he was, of course, running in third in a way that was 12 seconds back on Matty Campbell in the Porsche. Brynner Spengler and Matty Campbell tied together, less than a second between them, so that Corvette has lightly dropped off in the 4-car back, 4 or 5 laps after its various engine woes through hours 2 to 4. The Corvette challenge is a little bit blunt at the moment, but still with 4 hours to go, a clever setup change, or a fact the car may be running better at night. Don't forget, there could be people who've been taking the pain during the daytime, knowing the last 3 or 4 hours are at night. It's the last 3 hours where you make the big positions, isn't it? So if you've got a car that really works well in the dark.
That was always the tactics for the Works Porsches. Much missed here. So he will drop back down to probably back down to 4th position again in that, Jeremy, having done the comparable pit stops that everyone else did. That miscommunication could actually be more costly than I thought. I thought it wasn't going to cost them that much by the time we got back together and restarted, but the fact that they took their pit stop right at the end meant they must have been off the back of the queue by the time they restarted, Jeremy.
Yeah, by quite a long way, by 25 seconds or so.
Yeah.
And they really didn't make up much ground at all on that during that last stint, which is a little bit surprising. It stayed out, however, at least 1 extra lap compared to everybody else during that course period. So he certainly got a little bit more distance out of that tank of fuel than did the 25 and the 79 that both came in together. The 24 BMW came in a lap before those other two, but still there's not much to choose between the number 25, which will, I believe, regain the lead now with Brynner Spengler at the wheel. He's got his mirrors full, though.
Has done,
of Matty Campbell. And Augusto Farfus in the 24 BMW. He's about 3 seconds further back, but there's a pretty big gap back to Nicky Katzberg in the Corvette.
That really hasn't worked at all well for the number 3 car. They couldn't even stretch out another couple of minutes to get the points for leading the class in Michelin Endurance Cup, which are due in 2.5 minutes time. So it really hasn't worked at all well.
There was a change of 4th position, by the way, overall. Kobayashi managed to find a way past Pablo Montoya a lap or so ago. Oops. Picking up some dirt.
That was a while back, Jeremy. This was the pass, or an attempted repass for second position, I think, and it looks like Magnussen momentarily had the nose of the Chip Ganassi Racing Cadillac ahead of Philippe Albuquerque. Couldn't quite make it stick because the next corner was going in the wrong direction for where he is.
Cat and mouse at this stage in the game, isn't it? There's nothing to choose between those three leaders. Although I fancy the Mazda's not quite as quick as the Acura or the Cadillac behind him in overall terms, but it's got the lead. That's what it wants. I think Kobayashi's closing in again. He's got that gap down from only 5 seconds when he got his way past number 60 car. Number 48 car of Kobayashi is only, well, just maybe 10, 15, 20 car lengths behind that battle for the lead between number 55, number 10 and number 01. So I think very shortly, John, we're going to have a 4-car battle for the lead again.
Oh dear, what a shame. Right, Motorsport's just been off the circuit. That was at turn 15 again on the far side of the track. There's lots of runoff out there. What I don't know was whether they were pushed or they jumped, but that was Jan Halen, new front brakes on that car. So earlier on, Pat Long brought it in the pits under one of the yellows, sitting in 6th position in class at the moment, so dropped off the front end of the field in the GT Daytona category. Bomarito reeling off another lap, and for once, well, actually he's got 14 Lexus right ahead of him and going through turn 1, so that is a little bit of danger. Jack Hawkes was recently in that car but stays out of the way.
Yeah, well, Jack Hawkes has just reset the fastest lap of the race in GTD
So
on that lap.
Yeah.
2 minutes 1.000. The lap record in GTD in race trim was set back in 2018, also by the Lexus actually. Dominic Baumann at 2 minutes .6. So he's done now 2 minutes 1.000. So the fastest lap last year, by the way, in 12 hours was a 2:02.0 in GTD.
Have the Michelin Endurance Cup points awarded at the end of this lap that the leader is on now, which is lap number 238. Still ahead of the game as far as the record distance is concerned. Computer says 119 laps to go, which would give us 3:57, 3:48. On multiple occasions, as Jeremy was saying, did you say 4 times, Jeremy, that we've done 3:48 here?
3, 2017,
Right.
and then 2019 and 2020. Extraordinary.
Consistent, very consistent.
Yeah. And Kobayashi's right there now with the other contenders.
He's right
of the field.
Yeah, he's trying to get up the inside of turn 17 on Magnussen. Magnussen a bit too good for that. Top 4 all turn into turn 1 now. 1, 2, 3, 4. As quick as I can say that, they're in, middle and out of turn number 1. And there is now a massive 1.4 seconds between first and fourth. Not between each of the cars, between all 4 of them. And Juan Montoya is only another 2.8 seconds further back in 5th position. This is getting very tasty indeed as we come towards dinner time at the 69th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Advance Auto Parts. Nick Damon, Jeremy Shaw, John Hindhaugh on duty in this sector of the race, session of the race.
And it's been over an hour since we went back to green, and still those 4 leaders covered by next to nothing. We've had a round of pit stops in between them, and another one will be coming up in another 3 or 4 laps time.
For the leaders, yes, who all first 4 were all in at the same time in that last set of stops, so they're on lap 18 out of the pits. Montoya was 1 lap later, so he's on lap 17 since the last time he called for fuel. Lap times so close together, as you might imagine, for that top 4. Kobayashi, having got back to the end of that queue, had one little look down the inside at 17 on Magnussen, Jeremy, but has dropped back a wee bit now. Just biding his time, I think, at the moment. There is a bit of clear track ahead of the leaders unusually as they come out into through the 3, 4, 5, 6 area through Big Bend. The car that they'll catch next is the LMP3 leader, Riley Motorsport. Scott Andrews at the wheel of that car. He's in behind the number 3 GM Chevy Corvette of Nick Katzberg in 4th. Those two lapping in similar lap times. They're going through 10 now. So maybe catch them by the end of this lap. Oh, 83 car off, and with damage to the right rear of the car, trailing the rear light and the cheese wedge. That's the Win Autosport car, 6th in its category of LMP3, and it's Rodrigo Sales, I think, had just come out the pits that lap in that car, so that could have been the old cold tyre wiggle for him. He was turn 3, so barely out of the pits, and now, well, good news is he's thrown off the bit of bodywork that was trailing behind, which was hanging on, I think, by the rear light cord on that car. Question is, I can't see whether the left rear light in that area is working. I don't think it is, so I don't think he's got any rear lights on that car, which come darkness could be a problem, Jeremy.
Yeah, the officials won't like that one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And all the drivers following.
Sales then for Win Autosport LMP3, 6th in that category. Meantime, the leader is still the 55 Mazda. It's just also calm and collected for Jonathan Bomarino at the moment. You would not think he had Albuquerque, Magnussen and Kobayashi, 3 of the world's top endurance drivers, within a second of him. He's got his way through the first set of traffic. Oh, well, indeed, yeah, absolutely agree there, Jeremy.
And to as you say, some good laps there. 47's on occasion. His best was that he did a 47.1 back just 10 laps ago. Now, so halfway through this stint, I would expect to see the leading cars onto the pit lane, not this time around, but some of them starting the next lap.
Here are the points totals for the Michelin Endurance Cup before anything happens at the front of the field. In DPI, it is the Koenig Minolta Cadillac that leads, 25 points to 19 for the 55 Mazda Motorsports DPI. The 01 on 18. It's the Chip Ganassi car, the 48 Ally car in the pit lane with the 01, spot on time there. It is in 4th position on 16 points. Nick will keep an eye on what's going on in the pit lane. LMP2, it is the number 8 Tower Motorsports car that leads, 23 points to 20 from Era Motorsports. That's the number 18. In LMP3, it's Riley's number 74 that leads handsomely with 28 points from Sean Creech Motorsport on 19. This is after the points awarded for the 8 hours mark here at Sebring. GT Le Mans, the Corvettes are tied on 23 points. with the 25 BMW on 19 and the 24 BMW on 16. And in GTT, Maro Engel leads on 20 points on his own. The Paul Miller Racing squad in second with 18 points, 1 point further back is the number 16 Wright Motorsport car on 17 points. The tranche to be added at the end of the race, of course, and then 2 more rounds of the Michelin Endurance Cup. Sailing 6 hours at Glen and Motul Petit Le Mans at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Nick Damon, all well in the pit stops there?
It seemed pretty well. The only thing I've noticed, Kamui Kobayashi got out and Jimmy Johnson got into the Ally Cadillac. Kevin Madison stayed on board the Chip Ganassi car with the very similar name, and they exited the pits pretty much in order. And now the first 2 have gone down pit lane. That's Jonathan Bomarito in the Mazda, Felipe Albuquerque in the Konica Minolta Acura, and then joined by his fellow Acura driver Juan Montoya. So the top 3 now all in the pit. So a slight split, 2 heading lap earlier and 3 coming after. It's a driver change. I think it should be Tink, shouldn't it, on rotation?
Harry Tinknell.
Or Mazda.
Yeah.
And then we'll wait until they come out and see if that's John Bomarito out and see whether Albuquerque or Montoya are finishing their stints or not. We've got the rotations on the other 2 cars. Everything going very much to plan for all the teams here. Tardy on that front left. They've got plenty of time because the fuel's still going on the blue Acura. Pulling up behind it is Kyle Tilley in the Era Motorsport Orica from second place in P2. A number of cars now coming in. Oh, the battle down towards the end of the pit lane. It's just going to be won by the 55 car. So Bomarito has had a lead of, I would say, what, 3 metres or 4 yards for our American audience?
Yeah, that was, and it was Harry Tinknell. He was spot on there, getting into the car. And again, close run thing with the Lexus coming out, coming round turn 1, and also in 3rd place LMP3, Oliver Askew in the 47 Motorsports Duquesne, as those 2 cars joined. Does it give weird traffic from the right then, coming out of the pit lane? Jeremy have been committed in turn 1. Oh, spin and a touch down at the hairpin, and there's a lot of debris on the track down there. It is the Lexus, the number 14 car that I was talking about, and that car has rejoined, but I think there's damage to the suspension on the right-hand rear. Yes, there it is, and Jack Hawkes was from 3rd position then, turned around, and there's all kinds of debris down there at the moment. That all seemed, Jeremy, a tiny bit unnecessary down there, with people coming out the pits on cold tyres.
Yeah, and what was interesting about that round of pit stops is the number 01 and number 48, they came in a lap earlier than I think they kind of would have been expected
penalty
to come in, trying. Yeah, and it was number 10 car, I think, wasn't it? Hit number 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the 01 and 48, they came in a lap early, I think, trying to get the undercut to work. And that's a mistake. I think the number 10 car is going to get a penalty for that.
That Philip Albuquerque at the wheel.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
But,
hard enough hit the brake, even at that slow speed, to break the suspension, Jeremy. I think that's... I mean, the Mazda managed to get through because he was all the way alongside, good driving by Harry Tinknell as they were shuffling along, and also damage to that number 10 Konica Minolta Cadillac back into the pit lane. That's going to need a nose change as well, a front bodywork change. That it is under review. It's only going one way, I'm afraid, for that one. Nick will keep an eye on what's going on down there. Sorry, Jeremy, finish your point there, what you were saying about what was going on.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, there's 2 cars, number 01 and 48, trying to get a jump on the others. It worked out for number 01 car, not quite so much for the 48 car, but the number 55 was able to make its pit stop and retain the lead. So great work there once again by that Mazda team. to retain the lead, and this is going to be a costly stop for the Daytona winner. And I would fancy we're going to keep it still under review. No word yet as to whether any incident responsibility has been called, but it's certainly been looked at by the race director and in race control, and that could be a very costly contact for that number 10 car.
It's completely ruined the fight back of the 14 car. Full course yellow has been called because now Jack has had to stop that car on the back straight. So
They've
that's
had no luck at all.
None whatsoever.
Incredible.
Did they throw a black cat under a ladder into a mirror on the way to the track today? No, it's...
Well, just lately in general.
Well, true,
The latter part of last year.
Albuquerque had done 21 laps, so he was due in anyway, Jeremy.
He just
no, that was his out lap. Sorry, that was his out lap, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry. Hadn't scrolled quite far enough along to the right-hand side. Fair play to Kevin Magnussen. He got well out of the way. Had to take to the dirt to avoid the spinning car. But what else can Hawksworth do? He lets the Mazda through. He's got to turn in at some point. And that is a very unusually poor move by Philippe Albuquerque. Again, it's not... Look, everybody's battling for position. Just come out of the pits. He's on cold tyres. They're picking their way through traffic. And... other than drive straight on for the 14 car, there's nothing there, and Albuquerque's nowhere near with the contact. Jack's got that car going again though, and the faster car is always under the responsibility to make the pass cleanly. Felipe Nasr got called for that incident with a car coming out of the pits, and that was far less clear-cut than that, surely.
Yeah.
Nick Damon disagrees. So what was Jack Hawksworth meant to do there then, Nick?
He had just had the leader go underneath him, the Mazda. He then cut straight back onto the racing line. He's got mirrors. He could see there were 3 other P2 cars. Discretion. All he had to do was go around the outside of that corner.
There's only one line there.
That's absolutely not, John. There's a lot more than one line.
Behind the wall for that.
He came in sharp. If he just literally breathed off, gone wide, the other cars could have gone through. He'd have lost half a second. This sometimes, the slower cars have to realise there's a lot of the closing speed gets very good. In his mirrors, he didn't just see one P2, sorry, one DPI. He saw 3 or 4. I really think he just take the wide line round, the outside line round, and let the spaces up. He cut really sharply back across onto the racing line. Where are they going to go? There's 3 cars fighting. It's not using him. It's not using your brain. The slower cars have to use their brains as much as the faster cars do.
I disagree. I'm not even sure that Albuquerque was going to make the corner very easily with the speed he came into it, to be honest. It wasn't like Jack was up on the curb and slammed the door. It was pretty early in the piece for Jack for the impact on the right rear. All right, but that's, two drivers. However many drivers you have involved in an incident, you'll have one more opinion than there were drivers, weren't you, really? Let's be honest. It's not up to us to make the decision, but we'll see. We'll find out. The drivers ask for consistency. It's normally the car that's following. Jeremy.
Yeah, the etiquette is that the slower cars, they keep to their racing line.
What you're told in every driver's briefing ever. Yeah.
Beg pardon?
It's what you're told in every driver's briefing ever in multi-class racing.
Exactly. It's up to the faster cars to find their way around them. Jack Hawksworth did absolutely nothing wrong there. He did
Jeremy on this one.
Exactly what he was supposed to do.
I'd have been miffed if that had been me driving a GT3 or a GT4 car and something faster had dived in that late. When you're, what are we, 8.5 hours nearly into a 12-hour race, and there's so much crud on the outside and shingle. There's absolutely no way you can demand that Hawksworth drives a car's width or more off the racing line just because there's a prototype up his inside.
If he had driven a car's width off, he wouldn't currently be behind the wall, would he?
Possibly
And
not. I don't think Albuquerque was making the corner, Nick.
Yeah, but you have to. No, I think you would. You talk about PPI breaks here. I think sometimes you have to read the situation, and he could see the situation. He's got a spotter, and you've got to think, right, there's 3 cars literally ducking and diving. It wasn't just behind them, of course, it was Magnussen. I'm not saying Hawksworth is to blame, but I would make that much more 50-50 than it's entirely Albuquerque's fault, because sometimes you have to try and force a move, and sometimes the person being overtaken has to think a bit about the long run. Yes, there's 4 hours to go. What's he gaining by coming back across the track when there's some very hungry cars right behind it involved in a four-way fight for the lead?
He got pretty chopped up when he was going around turn 1 with the guys coming out of the pits already earlier on in that lap. All right, we'll see what they say. At the moment, race control is consumed with pass arounds, etc. We had just over an hour and 16 minutes of green flag there. This is our 5th time that we've seen the Corvette safety car out there. So before we go into the pits, let's give you a quick interim Mazda in-race update. Mazda leads 55, Harry Tinknell from Kevin Magnussen, Cadillac 01. Then Juan Montoya in the 60 Acura. 48, Jimmy Johnson back behind the wheel. Told you he'd get back in the car, in the Cadillac. Philippe Albuquerque, the last car on the lead lap, the number 10, but has stayed on the lead lap despite that extra pit lane call for the new nose. How does your Acura? My Acura's got a new nose. How does it smell? The Tristan Fortier Mustang sampling car. Once again, that number 5, just 1 lap off the lead. Where is it on the track? It's behind the leaders. So if they pit and he stays out, Fortier's only been in that car 5 or 6 laps. I wonder whether the leading DPIs will actually pit. And then Mike Conway is 4 laps off the lead in the number 31 Whelen Cadillac. LMP2, PR1 52 from Tower Motorsport, a lap back. Gabby Aubrey in the number 8. Then Kyle Tilley, 38 seconds away from second. Guy Smith in United 5 laps further back in the 22. Spengler for BMW ahead of Matt Campbell and Augusto Farfus. That's 25, 79, 24 and 3 Corvette all on the lead lap in GT Le Mans as the pits have opened, and it's 74 Riley leading by a lap in LMP3. 48 Cadillac in the pit lane, by the way. GTD, Faf Porsche, Paul Miller Racing. So that's swapped back around again then, with Andy Lally in 3rd for Acura, having a good run there. Then Jan Halen for Wright, number 16 Porsche. Vassar Sullivan, Zach Veach now behind the wheel of the number 12. That's your top 6. And that was just a splash of fuel for the 48 Cadillac, Nick.
Yes, the 48 decided to take a tactical splash, so he'll drop back in the train. Of course, the DPIs will all be waved back to the front again. Tristan Voltier, rather than trying to be clever and get the lap back, has decided to fill the tank up and see if a second yellow comes quickly with the chance. We did have a double visitor, and that was the 91 of Dylan Murray. He had to do an emergency stop, and now he's coming for the second time as well. And we have Nicky Katzberg, who's had a splash and dash. He attempts to do something different to make up those places in time on the leaders in GTLM, which currently isn't him and isn't Corvette Racing.
Just trying to work out what why we had the 48 in. Jimmy had only been in for what, 5 laps. I suppose 5 laps more fuel takes them off kilter again. They were doing all right with that slightly off strategy run earlier on, Jeremy, when they kept getting to the front of the field. sort of levelled up with all the yellow flags, but they put themselves slightly off cycle with the cars around them now. The 48 Cadillac there, extra 5 laps of fuel.
It was curious to know why they were absolutely back on cycle with everybody else. But this will give another couple of laps of fuel. You never know when that could work out in your favour. They were at the back of that little pack of cars. It's going to drop them actually behind. Is it going to drop them behind a number 10 car or not? I think it probably will. But just lose the one position and give them a little bit more fuel. Gives them a little bit of extra leeway.
Yeah, it has dropped them behind the number 10.
Yeah.
Correct. But we haven't had the split yet. They'll all obviously pack. Once everybody's gone through the pits, we'll have the DPI and prototype reset. They're all spread out within the line of cars at the moment. GT pits up as well. Any takers there, Nick?
Well, we have had a complete run of the LMP2 cars. All came in and went out. So Timothy Bourret in Tower Motorsport, Carl Tilley in Interim Motorsport, and Guy Smith in United Autosport. I think that's actually all of them stayed on board as well. Yeah, so they've all come through the pits as well, and a couple of we had
No GTs came in.
Going down here, no, just the P3s. We've not got any. Oh, we haven't got some G. Well, no. Just some cars that are broken down. So no, none of the GTDs actually came in the pits as part of this leading any at the top.
I wonder if they've been past the pits yet, if that's what it is.
They are now coming round, aren't they?
Yeah, sorry. I got overly excited by seeing the pits open GT. Here they come. So get your piece of paper ready. Here we go. And led in
by.
It looked like the Pfaff Porsche. Which had got back ahead Paul Miller before that. Yes, it is the Pfaff Porsche. Nick, take it away.
Yes, we have everyone into Madison Sloan, Paul Miller. We have Roman DeAngelis from Heart of Racing, Jan Hyland, Lawrence Van Toor, and in the Pfaff car, Andy Lally, Zach Veach. In fact, the only people who've not come in, Mauro Engel and the 775 car didn't come in, and the Turner Motorsport 96 machine also, so Rick Foley didn't come in. So there's two of them who didn't. Everybody else has come in. We've also had some more GTLM as well. Spengler, Campbell, Farfus have come through again, and Nicky Katzberg back in again. So Katzberg's come in twice. It's a bit odd. But that's a sign of more issues for the Corvette.
The two GT D cars that you mentioned, they're trying to get laps back. So I understand that with Robbie Foley and Mauro Engel in the Turner Motorsport and Sun Energy car. Looks like the 24 BMW might be getting brakes on the front of that car, Nick.
Yeah, they're taking the time with this yellow front. Certainly there was a rotor on that front left being wheeled away. It's the new one. It'll be cold. With the old one, it'll be too hot to handle. But interesting, you can't quite see that. It's a dry brake system again, so they have to take the whole unit off, unlike on the GTD, the GTLM cars, being full race cars, prototypes effectively. You can have a dry brake system to just uncouple the whole unit and clip on a new one. It makes it much more efficient and much quicker. So they'll do that in probably both sides in well under 2 minutes. But as probably everyone has to do it because of the number of heavy braking areas, of course, at Sebring, so it's not something you can probably last a set of brakes out for the whole 12 hours. It may well happen. This is what happened with Katzberg. Katzberg came in initially thinking he'd have a bit of a go at trying to do a bit of off strategy with fuel, and they made a second decision. Now, hang on a second, what we actually need to do is get you into your brakes now. So that's probably why he stopped twice. One thing we did see with the Pfaff car, Vantor got out and Zach Robichon got in. The rest, I think, kept all their drivers on board, John.
Just keeping an eye on what happened. I think Nicky Katzberg came in at the wrong time there, Nick. He may have come in with the prototypes. So
he could make an emergency stop with prototypes, couldn't he?
Yeah, but what was wrong with it then? I know what he did. He drove through. He didn't actually stop. So I wonder if this is communication problems again. So have they got radio issues with that? They said missed communication when we talked about it early on. What they didn't say was how they missed the communication. But if they can't talk to him, yeah, he came in with the prototypes. He drove through. So I don't. Well, will he get a drive-through penalty for that.
Not sure. Philip Eng has taken over what was the leading GTLM. We'll have to wait to see how it comes over at the end of the next lap, but he's taken over from Bruno Spengler in the 25 BMW.
It's not been a great race for Corvette, Jeremy Shaw. Very un-Corvette racing, like niggly problems. This is not a new car now. This is, second year of operation, and bits and pieces of a misfire and what looked like a coil pack breakdown issue for the Tandy car. Now, they got it rectified for a while, and then radio issues or communication problems for the number 3. Not Corvette racing at all, is it?
No, indeed. I think the number 3 car's been running pretty much flawlessly. It was just that one miscue, that miscommunication, as you say, that has cost them pretty dearly now. So they're at the back of that pack, and they've got a bit more work to do than I'm sure they would have liked.
So we have done the pit stop routine. The dance is over. So the prototype class split is going on, and all of the prototypes will head to the front of the field, and the DPIs will go to the front of the prototypes. So let me give you a quick rundown of how they stand on the timing screen, and then I'll work out where the lap prototypes are within that. So it's Tincknell for Mazda Motorsport leading in the 55 white prototype. Then the off-white 01 Kevin Magnussen driven Cadillac. Then Juan Montoya in the pink Acura. This is going to be entertaining. Then a very fired up Philippe Albuquerque in the black and blue Konica Minolta Acura. Then Jimmy Johnson in the Ally Cadillac. Now they're all on the same lap. Tristan Fortier is in 5th, but a lap down, 4 laps down. Mike Conway in the red and white Whelen Engineering. Now what I can't tell from the tracker, because they're all too close together, so I need to actually have a look to see where Fortier is in the line. Now, he's not up with the leaders. I think he's behind the 48 Cadillac. Yes, he is. So not a chance for him. Yeah, yeah.
6th place.
I was kind of hoping he would be further up the line and maybe have a go at getting a lap back whilst he is going, but he's not.
The number 31 car is about 4th car in line, but having had that recent incident, that's 4 laps. We're back again now, so a lot of work to do to make up that amount of ground.
But it has Mike Conway behind the wheel, Jeremy, and if that car is anywhere near straight, bearing in mind it's had suspension done on the right-hand side once, front and rear, and then a second time for the steering on the right front, it might not be absolutely tip and indeed top. Slightly suboptimal perhaps, but if it is anywhere near, Mike will have a go to get in front of the 3 cars ahead of him and get a lap back. Back to green flag racing. Harry Tincknell leads them to the line with 3.5 hours still to go, waving over left and right, trying to clean up the Michelin tyres and get a bit of heat into them and pressure as they go through turn 1. Unsurprisingly, it was Juan Montoya who was the most feisty at the start and had a little look briefly down the inside of Magnussen, couldn't get that done. Conway doesn't go forward, in fact goes backwards in the line from the restart as Albuquerque goes through, and a spin for a Corvette, and it's the number 3 Corvette that's gone around. That was Nicky Katzberg. He had come out in 2nd place after that, and he's lost that, and there's debris on the road. And at the same time, Nick Damon, I'll let you tell me about the penalty that's been assessed for incident responsibility.
Car 10 penalty. Well, fair enough then. Incident responsibility car 14 driver. Yes, but let's be honest about this. Race control doesn't always get things right. No, I mean, I don't think it was black and white, but I sometimes discretion take
No,
into account of the
I
drive.
don't disagree with you, but you know, race control obviously has made the same judgment as Jeremy and I did, that it's the guy behind who has got to make a clean pass, and it wasn't anywhere near. It's been assessed; he'll have to come through. Katzberg has rejoined. Drive-through penalty. Still Tinknell weaving down towards the final corner. Now, can't stay out for 3 laps, Albuquerque. I don't really see the point of doing that. I'd be in and out straight away. That's exactly what he does. Stays right and comes in. Problem is, of course, just coming off a full course yellow, Jeremy. What he's got is the whole field going past him here, and he will have to fight through a train of cars. So this is actually quite a costly time penalty. Our Porsche keys to the race. We said no mistakes and a bit of patience required. Just underline that and send that written piece of paper through to Philippe. I'm sure he knows that he could have backed out of that, and discretion could have been the better part of his fella as well, to be honest. So that's shaking things up at the top of GT Le Mans as well. Didn't see what caused the spin, just the aftermath of it, and the WeatherTech side going flying the exit of turn 1. But upshot is Porsche leads. WeatherTech Porsche leads at the Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring, and Matt Campbell with half a second, and Philippe Eng and Augusto Farfus another 3/4 of a second back, and Nicky Katzberg has pitted. So did he take some damage there? Katzberg straight back into the pits after that spin and contact. Shadows lengthening here, Jeremy.
They are, aren't they? Yeah. What time is sunset?
7:37 is the official sunset. So
yeah,
it'll get dark.
Well.
Yeah, it'll get dark properly dark about what, 15-20 minutes after that, maybe not long.
Yeah, but what's really interesting now is the horizon is cleared to the west, which means as the cars are heading down Alec Ullman straight into Sunset Bend, they are going to see the sun. It's directly into their eyes as they break down there, and there'll be the similar problem into the hairpin at turn 7 as well, and the halfway around this lap. So it'll be really tricky conditions for the next hour or so for these drivers as the sun gets even lower in the sky.
Corvette Racing, Katzberg back in the pits after going off at the restart, back in for fuel and tyres. First glance, everything looks okay on the Ford Corvette, and it's back out again into the fray, but has lost an awful lot of time. It is still ahead of the leaders and therefore still on the lead lap in GT Le Mans, but it's dropped a lot of time. Actually, behind its teammate as well. They're just both on the back straight roundabout now.
And into the lead of the class, I think for the first time in this race, is the WeatherTech Racing Proton Competition Porsche car number 79 with Matty Campbell at the wheel of that car now, ahead of both of the BMW, Philippe Eng in 25, Augusto Farfus in the number 24 car.
Just to finish off that incident responsibility penalty for the number 10, Philippe Albuquerque did drop down to 5th position behind Jimmy Johnson in the Ally Cadillac. Lost about 30 seconds there. However, the car that he hit has just come out from behind the wall. That was the number 14 Lexus. It was Jack Hawksworth who'd not long been in that car. So around about 30-40 seconds, the penalty for what is now 6 lap, more than that, 8 lap deficit for the fix on the Vassar Sullivan. And I know that there will be people saying that punishment doesn't fit the crime, but what else can you do? You can't make them stand still until the people fix the car. It's,
You can do, but it doesn't go down very well.
No.
So we're now down then to 7 cars on the lead lap in GT Daytona, and during that caution period, by dint of staying out, when the other leaders came in, number 75 car has now gained a lap, so it's now just 2 laps off the back of that train of cars. So he's now battling for the lead in GTD.
Yeah, I think, where are they on the track? Are there 2 laps or only 1 lap off the train?
2, I think.
Okay, right.
Pretty sure. I think they were 3. I think. Am I wrong?
Robbie Sean is shown on lap, completed lap 231, and Maro Engel has completed lap. Oh, that's how very odd. That's just gone back down to 229. I'm sure that's at 230. All right. Yeah. It must be by dint of where they are on the track, Jeremy. That,
as you say, we've had a few sort of glitches on the scoring, haven't we?
I'll keep an eye on that, says Hindus. And I'll see where the 75 is the next time it comes around. They've worked hard with that intermittent TC and ABS fault. That must be an absolute nightmare to drive. Great confidence being shown by the leaders. By the drivers rather, in that 75 Sun Energy machine. Battle for the lead in GT Le Mans. Factory driver for Porsche leading as he goes across the line for the WeatherTech number 79, but that is not a factory car, although it is current spec. This current iteration of Porsche, dubbed the RSR 19 because it first appeared at the start of the FIA WEC season in 2019, which, if you remember, was September. But there have been a couple of little updates, and Cooper McNeil telling me on Midweek Motorsports before the start of the season that that car would get all of the updates and be fully in 2021 spec. Of course, not run by the works. They have withdrawn from competition for the moment, at least, in IMSA, although they will be back with LMDH in a couple of years' time. So top 3 absolutely together in GT Le Mans.
Yeah, and in GTD, Jan Helen's already made up a couple of places after the restart. He's up into 3rd position now. He took the restart, I believe, in 5th, so he's managed to get past both Andy Lally in the Magnus Acura and the Aston Martin of Robert De Angelis.
Damon coming to join me in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre as Jeremy will be taking a break shortly, and we'll welcome Shea Adam back as our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter.
Stretching out at the front all of a sudden.
Are they ever? Harry Tinknell's put a 2.5 seconds into the following cars. Magnussen has got 3 seconds on Montoya, who's got 7 on Johnson.
Oh, okay, it's Jimmy at the wheel of that car now, isn't it? Yeah, good point.
Yeah. That said, you know, he's a second off, that's all. A second off Montoya. A second, 9/10 of a second of Kevin Magnussen last time around. I'm not sure that I'm not going to be criticising anybody on that pace, not at all.
No, absolutely right. No, he's done a really good job as Jimmy Johnson, particularly yesterday. Just made huge strides yesterday, working with Simon Pagenaud and Kumiko Bayashi and the whole team there. at the Ally Cadillac organisation, and plus of course the 31 car as well, which is also run by Action Express. So there's a lot of people he can draw from there. He did it really, really well. He was doing some really good laps before the incident that he had, and you know, so he's just hanging in there right now, doing exactly what he needs to do. He's actually not losing any ground at all to Philip Albuquerque in the number 10 car that's had that problem, and of course had to serve that penalty.
Have a little update before we get to 7 o'clock here at Sebring. This from the Real Slim Blakey. Under current rules, the punishment must always reflect the crime, not the outcome. Sad as it may be from certain viewpoints. Hard to have it the other way, otherwise a tiny racing incident that ends one party's race would end up as a black flag for the other person. I totally agree with you. All and underlining that, what I would say is though that I think sometimes contact that doesn't end up with somebody going off the track or coming to the pits is somewhat ignored. A bit of a sideswipe, a bit of a dumb move by a prototype on a slower car. But if we kind of get away with it, it's kind of like, oh well, you know, no harm, no foul. No, it still was a foul, and it was still a dumb move. And I'd like to see more of those called, if I'm honest. And there's certain things, sort of leaning on people, pushing them towards the pit wall, whether or not there's any contact, all of that sort of stuff. I just don't think there's any room for it. Because at that point, that isn't just making a mistake, that is mind games and people trying to bully other drivers on the track. And I don't think there's any room for that, whether there's contact or not. And I'd like to see more of those called. But Real Slim, agree, can't park somebody up just because of what happens. Let's take a Mazda in-race update as we get towards 7 o'clock at IMSA Radio, by the way, if you want to join the conversation and the debate. Let's start in GT Le Mans, GT Daytona rather. Zachary Robichon for Pfaff leads for the Porsche number 9, then Madison Snow for Lamborghini 2.5 seconds further back in a cracking battle with Jan Halen for Wright Motorsports. That's your top 3 after the restart. Still a good run by the Acura in 4th place from Andy Lally. And in LMP3, Riley Motorsports by a lap from 47. Motorsports, Oliver Askew behind the wheel of the 74. Duke Kane again, 0.3 of a second ahead of charging Jeroen Bleekemolen for the second of the Riley. So second place in that category, really heating up. GT Le Mans, WeatherTech by half a second. The 79 Porsche has Matt Campbell on board with Philip Eng and Augusto Farfus in the 2 BMWs 25 and 24. LMP2, PR1 Matheson Orica by a lap from Era. Kyle Tilley is a lap away from Scott Hooker here at the front of the field, 52 from 18. And Timothy Bouret for Tower Motorsports just 0.3 further back, so another good battle for second in that category. And at the front of the field, it's Harry Tinknell in the 55 Mazda from Kevin Magnussen in the 01 Chip Ganassi Cadillac from Juan Montoya in the Meyer-Shank Acura. It's the number 60. Jimmy Johnson in 4th for Ally Cadillac. Philippe Albuquerque for Conning Minolta in the number 10. 34 seconds back after that drive through. 48, a lap off the lead for Mustang Sampling. Another couple of laps further back is Mike Conway. That is your Mazda in race update. Jeremy's going to take a break in a second. Before he do, he's a point to make on the number 55.
Yeah, last lap around, well, the previous lap, a 147.06 for Harry Tinknell. That's within 0.2 of a second. That car's fastest lap of the race. The temperature is, the sun is going down, the temperature is coming down, and Mazda seems to be speeding up.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy's going to recharge his batteries and get some fuel on board. So we'll welcome back Shea Adam to the broadcast as our VP Racing Pit and Paddock reporter. Ready to go for your next stint?
Hello. Yes, carb loaded. I'm ready. Put me in for the final. I can do this sunset stint. Put me in, coach.
Carb loading is no good. It makes you tired. You get a carb coma.
No, not when you're an athlete.
Okay, you say so. if you say so, absolutely. You're listening to live coverage from the 69th annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by Advance Auto Parts, Sirius 216 XM 392, around the circuit on FM 99.1, that's WWOJ, and around the world on RS2, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels, all live and free. Good to have your company. This is IMSA Radio. So 7 o'clock into the sunset time of night, with the light and the sky clearing up, so the sunset is going to be an issue down towards turn 17, down towards turn 7 in front of the hotel, the hairpin as well. This is when, if you've just been into the pits, or you're coming into the pits in the next half an hour or 40 minutes, which many of them will be, you want a clean windscreen, Nick Damon, for the next part of this race. You don't want grimy, oily, dirty flies and all of that on your windscreen when you get to this time of day.
Now, this is what you save your tear off for, isn't it? This is why you've waited this long and peered through a smeary mess, because you know, well, they'll rip off a tear off and I'll be able to see for the next 10 or 15 minutes. It really is incredibly bright. It is absolutely in the setting sun going down to unsurprisingly Sunset Bend and the hairpin. Sunset Bend's a little bit worse because as you approach it so much higher speed, whereas of course with
and also there's nothing in front of you. There is a little bit of tree cover at turn 7, so you don't have to deal with it for quite as long. You've got the hotel there as well, which gives you a little bit of cover. So yeah, it's going to be a rough little while. Shadows really lengthening. That cloud that was bubbling up earlier on has blown away. Still in the distance, a bit of threatening cloud that looks rather darker than I would like to see. Just over 3 hours still to go. New fastest lap in GT Le Mans for Matt Campbell. Not just for him, not just for the car. That is the fastest GT Le Mans lap by a privateer Porsche, and Matt Campbell, the Antipodean sensation, Porsche junior driver in the WeatherTech Racing 79. Well, he's had to find this time, Nick, because he's only 0.6 of a second away from Philip Eng in second place.
Well, it's certainly, not only is it a sunset hour, it's a bit of a golden hour, because we've also seen fastest laps from Antonio Farfus as well, and some very quick stuff from Philip Eng. So everyone apart from Nicky Katzberg, who's still kind of suffering the after effects of that spin following the last yellow flags area, is a little bit slow. Now, I must be on my record to say that the fastest GTLM race prior to this was actually Nicky Katzberg with the 57.0, so he's taken over a second off the best ever. And I think it's tantamount to the fact that the track's in really, really good condition with excellent grip and a really good temperature for fast time. So whilst they are staring into the sun, at least they've got some grip to get the thing around the corner when they just pitch in a hope.
I'm told by Brian Dawkins, who's used the hashtag RSL Sebring at IMSA Radio, Super GT has a penalty termed morally hazardous for the kind of overly aggressive driving that you were talking about earlier on. I really like that, Brian. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Morally hazardous penalty.
Rather than having like Bo Povich and Mary Whitehouse in the steward's room.
Presumably only for stuff that happens on the track. Otherwise, there'd be all kinds of potential there.
You don't want Mary Whitehouse in the racing car paddock, absolutely not. But yeah, but for morally reprehensible driving, she'd be absolutely up there with twin set and pearls and waving a little finger at the bad boys.
Don't forget, we'll be breaking down what we've seen across the whole of the Mobil 1 Sebring 12 hours in Michelin post-race tech after the checkered flag. We'll try and get some driver interviews into that, answer your questions as well. It is the show where editorially it's driven by you. hashtag Michelin PRT to @IMSA Radio, please. Got a question that you want answering from what you've seen. If you've seen something that you'd like to comment on, the points arising from the race in, just over 3 hours' time, hashtag Michelin PRT @IMSA Radio. And while we're talking about the headline makers here, as I'm sure we will be in Michelin post-race tech, it is Haggerty Inside Track on Tuesday. That's at 1 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock UK, on the Haggerty community channels at haggerty.com. In vision, 3 guests being lined up even as we speak. Definitely got somebody from Rahal Letterman Lanigan. Hopefully it's going to be the President of Racing Operations, Piers Phillips, in that.
Newcastle Dome.
No, we won't be mentioning that. Absolutely not, because I'll upset him, and then he'll upset me, and nobody will understand what we're talking about because we'll end up talking too quickly to each other. So that's on Tuesday. Haggerty.com via the community pages. Look for the live events and join us then. 1 o'clock Eastern. Get your lunch break in at the right time. That's 5 o'clock still in the UK because the clocks still haven't changed in the rest of the world. Shane Adam. Update me on the evolution of the track surface here. What are the drivers telling you?
Nick was completely spot on. The track has so much grip on it, and part of that stems from the fact that we've had more Michelin rubber laid down this weekend than we normally do. With the new Carrera Cup North America running on Michelin's, that gave us an additional 35-ish cars twice in their races, as well as the Michelin Pilot Challenge runners, of which we had 35. And now this field of 37 cars out around the track. Plus you add in a very rare thing for Florida. We haven't had rain. The track is very grippy, and the times are going to continue to fall as the temperature drops too. It's already down to 66 degrees in the air. We're going to lose at least another 10 before this race is over.
Yeah, air temp 18 Celsius. Track temp exactly the same, so it's going to be what's that, about 50, about 60?
4, isn't it? So 20 is 68.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely. In the leader, drops out Harry Tinknell, out of the lead. Through has gone Kevin Magnussen for another lead change. Shea Adam.
Fuel and tires for Harry Tinknell as the Multimatic crew goes to work. They are remaining to change the left rear. Now that wheel has been on, so the car can be dropped off the air jacks. They're giving Harry a new drinks bottle as well. This team tested here the first race, the first week of January. So they did get quite a bit of time out around the track in conditions that were cool. The car was fast then. Well, the car is fast tonight.
Yeah, and of course, as we go into the evening and the night, as you rightly say, Shay, we're going to see even further temperature drops. Now, there is a point where normally the cooler it is, the more the tyres love it, up to a point where it gets too cold and they start losing heat and they start losing grip. So it'd be interesting to see where that crossover point comes. Likely, to be honest, there's still plenty more to be got out of these cars and more drive from them. And it's interesting, there's not a huge amount of marbling. You look at the outside, look at the corner, there might be a lot of detritus on the outside. It's not looking too bad. We don't seem to have got down to a single line just yet as the Sirius XM Acura goes around the Le Mans curve and down the Ullman Straight before they'll be straight into the sunset. It's going to get lower and lower and lower. It's going to get an awful lot worse in the next half an hour. You stare right into the setting sun before the aptly named Sunset Bend, 17 and 18. Watch out for the bumps, they'll bite you, as they did, of course, Jimmy Johnson in qualifying. He found himself backing into the path of traffic, and then, of course, the other time he spun around as well. So he got in both ways, actually, during the course of this event. Come in turn one, rip the thing in at about 160, 170 miles an hour, break down 2 gears, and then up and out and try not to go out too wide. And you come into the very complex 345, and we have the Ally Cadillac in show.
that is Jimmy Johnson bringing the car in. He's going to stay in the pit lane. I saw Simon Pagenaud's red helmet up on the wall. He does the same design, but he does sometimes change the color. And when he runs under the yellow color, friends and I tend to call him Pikachu because he is lightning fast. But the Ally Cadillac comes in, hits its marks, fuel, tires, and there we go, with the door opening up so that Jimmy Johnson can get some sweet freedom and fresh air, and Simon Pagenaud can climb aboard and do what he does best. I'm sure Norman's at home cheering you on too, Simon, his little puppy dog. Fuel, tires, aren't they going to do a windshield tear-off? This is the time of day when you want to save those windshield tear-offs because visibility is at a premium. Had a little bit of trouble getting Simon fully strapped in and tethered to the car. The fuel nozzle's been it has been detached for several moments now before Simon actually gets going once again. Came in from the 3rd position. Let's see where he cycles back out to.
Coming down to complete another race hour and head into the 10th hour of racing. Just over 3 hours still to go then. Pagenaud, as reported, stays behind the wheel of that number 48. Listening to IMSA Radio, it's live coverage of the 69th annual Mobil 112 Hours of Sebring, with Nick Damon and Shea Adam and me, John Hydoff. Nick, go ahead.
We've just here changed position. That was a change for 2nd and 3rd in GTD.
Thank you.
Just right behind the Ally Cadillac, and it was actually Jan Hyland, the white motorsports car, going past Madison Snow in the Lamborghini. So put himself up quite nicely there in that little 3, 4, 5 section. You have to be slightly helped by the person being overtaken because they can be a bit unwieldy, but we still have 3 hours to go. There's many fights to be made between those cars, and really just staying close is what counts now, and unleashing yourself once you actually are being lit just by your headlights and by nothing else.
Magnussen got to be due in sometime soon from the front of the field. A little bit of yellow in his stint here as we're beginning to get the beautiful golden light. There are a couple of extra lighting towers down the back straight, I'm told, this year. Those Musso towers, Musco tires for the lighting. Magnussen with 1.8 seconds on Montoya. Montoya has been out 1 lap fewer since his last fuel stop than Magnussen. Matt Campbell half a second ahead of Philippe Eng, who's 1 second ahead of his teammate Augusto Farfus. White Porsche, red BMW, black BMW. That's your top 3 in GT Le Mans. Great drive by Matt Campbell, but we knew this. New fastest lap in LMP2 for Scott Huffaker, leading the category for PR1 Matheson Motorsport. 1:48.5. Pit lane speed violation, by the way. Did we mention that for the 83? Good, yeah.
No.
Right, okay, well, it's there. And Magnussen's come in, Shea. So obviously listening to us on 99.1 WWOJ.
And I know that Mom missed to mention earlier, so I'll say it again. Scott Dixon is in the car, your new favorite race car driver, Mom, or second favorite, I think is what she told me earlier to try and save face. Not sure if she was talking about Dad or somebody else, but still, one of those situations. Scott Dixon getting back in for his second go behind the wheel of this 01 Cadillac from Chip Ganassi Racing. Beautiful stop, fuel, tires, and the driver change all completed well before the fuel probe was detached. I love it.
Yeah, perfectly run. That's Ray on turn 1 camera, Ray Wenzel Jr. That is one of the iconic shots in motor racing. Looking back from turn 1 towards the setting sun. A little bit of clouds in over to the east of the circuit, but it has really cleared off very nicely indeed. With the lack of cloud cover, however, when the sun does go down, the temperature you would expect to go down a wee bit quicker. So many places on this track where the sun's in your eyes that you don't think. Coming out of 3 into 4 and 5, and then all the way through Big Bend down towards the hotel, which is exactly where Scott Dixon is now, turns in to the hairpin and round it. Then the sun. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, the only question I have is you keep referring to Big Bend. It's Gurney Bend and has been since 2002. Poor old Dan gets a corner named after him. No one uses the name.
Yeah, true. Christensen Bend has turned 3 as well, of course. Let's not forget. More pit stops. Shea Adam.
Christensen Corner, isn't it?
Christensen
Juan
Corner.
Pablo Montoya.
Yeah.
Juan Pablo Montoya is out, and you scared the living bejesus out of him at that corner, if memory serves correct.
I did.
Getting back into the pink and black Acura out on the racetrack. Had a little bit of issue trying to squish himself back down into the seat, though. That's not something that you normally see with Olivier. Very svelte guy as he's now being strapped into the car. The fuel nozzle is still attached. The tire change is done. Fuel nozzle is out. The door was up for about a second longer than it should have been. So there was a slight amount of time lost on that pit stop. But at the end of the day, it's not as bad as it could have been. The bright side.
It never ceases to amaze me how calm those pit stops are. There are so many moving parts to getting a pit stop, even just changing the tyres, but putting the fuel in as well on the pit lane. Never mind then adding in the complexity at various times of changing a driver. Oh, now a bit side-by-side action here. This is the 0-1 car going into Christensen corner, and Scott Dixon passing a couple of other cars. It was the Little Molly Turner Motorsport BMW, and I think that might have been one of the LMP2 cars, was it? That blue?
Yes, it was,
yeah.
Era.
It was the Era car. And so 3 car classes together, and Scott Dixon was hustling his way through there in an attempt to keep the gap between he and Harry Tinkle in 3rd down as low as possible. It's about 6 seconds at the moment. Actually, that's going to translate into 2nd, actually, isn't it?
Albuquerque goes to pits.
Philippe Albuquerque is due in 16. Why did they come in? That was the. He's due in any time now. He's due in any time now because he had the drive-through in this session. So he's done 16 since the drive-through, 7 before that, which had some yellow in it, if memory serves. So he must be close. Shea Adam, LMP3 leader, has been in to the pit. Scott Andrews had a lap on the field, but Blake Molan's gone into the lead here. What's going on?
I genuinely don't know what's going on with that team. They haven't texted me back yet, but Scott Andrews was in the pit lane for a very long time. He stayed aboard that number 74 for Riley. He's actually dropped down to 3rd now. Let me do some investigating and get back.
32 laps on that last stint, which is long, but again, middle part of it had half a dozen that were behind the Corvette safety car. Let's get back to the GT Le Mans battle. How I am going to miss this classic car in IMSA competition. No, we haven't had a huge entry here, but there are 3 of them battling it out. No GT Le Mans cars next year. If you missed the story on SportsCar 365 earlier in the week, it appears that Corvette are prioritising getting into the WEC with those cars next year, where they still will be eligible for a couple of seasons. The quote was they can still go and race against people, and that is a new car. They want to get some value out of it. Completely understood. Not possible to backwards engineer the C8 to full GT3 specification, and reasonably understandably, I think they are reluctant to build another brand new car with a new GT3 set of regulations just a couple of years away.
Go ahead. If you look at what's happening in WEC and also obviously much more in Le Mans, there is an absolute well, plethora of GTE machines. I mean, the AM class is massive at Le Mans, 20-something cars. So there's plenty of cars out there of a number of different chassis manufacturers. It's just that this running them as a manufacturer seems to have fallen out of favour.
They're not cheap cars to run, and non-racing cars are cheap car to run. I can't help thinking that with Laura Klausner-Wantrup now as head of racing, effectively, for GM brands in endurance racing and sports cars, there's an opportunity here to have a look at exactly which brand, which platform goes into which category. There's a GT4 Camaro, of course. There's no real GT3 offering at the moment. There's a new LMDH. Does that stay as Cadillac, or does Corvette go into that and potentially run for the overall victories here in IMSA and at Le Mans and various other races? But I like the idea that the current C8R is going to get a bit more life in the World Championship and at Le Mans, and a few more races. Hasn't been seen in Europe yet, of course, because of the circumstances of the last year. Didn't get to go to Le Mans last year. Will debut in Europe at the Spa opening round of the WEC. Let's get back to the lead in that class that we're talking about, GT Le Mans, through turn 1. And Matt Campbell, excuse me, the two Matts in that car. Matt Campbell under extreme pressure from not one now, but two BMWs. I'll keep an eye on that whilst we have a little update on the car that has been leading for such a long time in LMP3. The number 74 Riley Motorsports Ligier now dropped down to third.
Thank you very much to Gar Robinson, who is listening to us on Sirius XM right now. He sent me a text to say the headlights were not working on the car, and I wrote him back and said, yeah, you kind of need those around Sebring, and he just wrote back, yep. So that's why it was such a long stop, to try and get that to function again. We've also had two important pit stops in terms of the race so far. Ryan Dial is now back aboard the Era Motorsport number 18, and Philippe Albuquerque did come in and serve that pit stop that you and Nick were just talking about, him owing. You can check that off the list.
Thank you. Yeah, I had noticed a couple of cars that weren't running with headlights on earlier in the day. I always think keeping your lights on even when it's daylight is not the worst thing to do, because then if you have a problem, you've seen it earlier before you have to. At IMSA Radio, if you'd like to get in touch with us. Hello to Gar Robertson, listening to us on, I think on XM 392 is Gar. You can also find us on Sirius 216 and around the circuit on 99.1 WWOJ. Sirius and XM channels are uninterrupted, flag-to-flag coverage, as it is on IMSA Radio RS2 via the player at imsaradio.com. Leading GT Le Mans cars has the leading DPI car, Harry Tinknell, carving his way through. He's driven a few laps in a GT Le Mans car in his time, so we'll understand exactly how those cars are handling, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point you make, actually, because the more rounded drivers understand the capabilities the cars are overtaking as well as the car they're trying to overtake in, and that can avoid making mistakes like that. Yeah, turn 7. But seriously, it's you have to understand what the car you're trying to get past can actually do. Because if you're asking it to make a move to get out of your way, you're trying to get up the inside of a car that's actually got very good brakes and you can't outbrake it. You need to know that. You need to know where it's safe. You need to know where they can actually see what you're doing, where the visibility is, where you're not in a blind spot. So having experience across multi-levels of the various levels of endurance racing, it must really, really help a driver. You have empathy, I suppose, and also, I suppose, you know the weak spots too.
David Brabham, whose father, Sir Jack Brabham, of course, pushed a car across the line here at Sebring to win a championship. He always used to say he felt that it was almost should be mandatory to get in a GT car before you're allowed to drive a prototype. Marino Franchitti always said that it helped him as well massively. The leader was held up there by the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, not deliberately, but it's given the chance down the inside to turn 17 for the red BMW, a chance that is gratefully accepted. No second opportunity required. Porsche going very, very wide towards the outside wall onto the start-finish straight, and we've got a new leader in GT Le Mans. Matty Campbell just having to lift off at exactly the wrong time, coming through turn 16, the Le Mans bend onto the Alec Ullman straight, the back straight, and that was all that was required by Philippe Eng to take the position. Campbell fights back straight away in the WeatherTech Porsche though, and for a moment I thought he was going to get that done. He's really close to the outside wall on driver's left as he came out of turn 17. Now at the hairpin, still with the second BMW right up the perfectly formed tail of the Porsche 911. Small margins, Nick, that wasn't it? I mean, really, if he'd caught that Aston Martin either a little bit earlier or a little bit later, he wouldn't have had the problem.
Yeah, and that's the both the excitement and the danger of traffic and how it can shape a race, and how you don't have to be just have to be good, you have to be lucky as well. Now the interesting thing is, you see, he went very, very wide coming out of the exit at Sunset, and if you get slightly on the wrong line going round, they end up being passengers. You have to kind of wait for the car to work out where it's going to bounce itself to before you can actually kind of get the car back pointing where you wanted to do. And certainly, you know, in Campbell's case, he was obviously wanting to also get as much forward momentum as possible. So you just push and push and push and just kind of trust yourself that, right, it's going wide, but it will come back in again before it makes an unpleasant clunk against the concrete wall, which...
Tower Motorsport car off at turn 1. This will be a yellow flag immediately. Hard into the tyres on the outside, driver's right, front end wiped off, rear end wiped off, and that has been a very big impact. Fortunately, the biggest part of the impact was into the tyres, but it has gone so far down, it's managed to clear the tyres and has come in to contact with some of the concrete blocks. I'm guessing that's just a drift wide coming through turn 1. Didn't see another car involved there. It's Timothy Bure who was behind the wheel of that car, and in second place. Already the IMSA safety trucks are there, and already I see the driver is out of the car. Fantastic work by the safety team. That has been a very big incident indeed. Coming through turn 1. He's rolled it. It's actually gone all the way over and back onto its wheels. Exactly the same wiggle that Felipe Nasser had when he came into contact with Vautier leaving the pit. Exactly the same wiggle in exactly the same place. Went left, snapped right, but without Vautier there to straighten him back up again, which is effectively what happened for Nasser. He's gone into the tyre wall and rolled it over back onto its wheels, or what was left of its wheels. The door opened, the safety cell has done its job, and Bure is out of the car, but that was a very, very big incident indeed. Looked like even some of the tyre barriers might have gone over the fence there, such was the ferocity of the impact. The AMR Cayenne GTS on the scene as well now. Just to reiterate, Timothy Bure out and walking around, and there are some tyres that have made their bid for freedom, some of the banded tyres over the other side of the wall. Now what I can't tell you is whether they were there to start with or whether they were flicked there by the car, but that, Nick Damon, was a very big shunt, and so reminiscent of what happened to Felipe Nasser on his first flying lap when he hit the Tristan Fortier Mustang sampling Cadillac, who was coming out of the pit lane. And do you know what? That was his first flying lap as well.
Yeah.
So tyres not up to temperature and pressure.
But I mean, the way it flew off with completely unabated speed, it's almost like you look at it, if you didn't know it was his first lap, you think is that had a brake failure, because it just literally speared off the track like it was a breakage. But you say, of course, you're going round at, I don't know, what do you turn in at 140 miles an hour perhaps in one of those cars, perhaps 130, yeah. And everything's going great. It snapped bang. Yeah, you're actually back on the power at that point, so you're not going to have any time to actually do anything. You might get your foot off the throttle, but get the other foot on the brake. It's very unlikely. So you have no retardations. You actually then just hit the wall at that speed. But
you know what? I remember there's no tyre warmers, no tyre warming of any kind in IMSA competition, and I just wonder, with these cooler temperatures, maybe taking a little bit longer to come up. And I'm not just talking about grip here, Nick. I'm talking about ride height, because it's pressure as well as temperature. And as the temperature comes up, obviously it stiffens the tyre sidewalls, and it gives you a little more ride height. And I just wonder, because that was like a carbon copy, an action replay of what happened to Felipe Nasser in the DPI car. All right, I know this is a different classic car, but it is an LMP2 car, which is the same basic chassis. I just wonder if the car is grounding out on a bump that once you get your tyres up to temp, you don't feel on that exit, because it was right in the middle of the road. It wasn't in what I would have normally said was the bumpy part of the exit of turn 1.
Yeah, the other thing I'm just wondering is, because we've got so much mechanical grip from the track itself, are drivers getting overconfident too quickly? So because the track feels so good, they're misunderstanding what the actual grip level is, and they're not taking into account the normal amount of caution you need until you're up to pressure, because you're not sliding, because there's so much, which is the giveaway. Oh, I'm sliding. Oh, right, I've got a bit of a problem. But because there's so much mechanical grip just in the track surface because of the lack of rain and the extra rubber, that they're perhaps getting bought into too much of a positive feeling about where the car is. But that is absolutely right, John. That's going over something. He's getting a snap either on a bounce, or because he's just overloaded the rear tyres, which chemically can't give the grip because they haven't got the heat. Mechanically and aerodynamically, it's fine. There's grip from the track and there's grip from the downforce. But the chemical side, which obviously needs the heat to work, that's what he's not got.
Not quite 45 minutes since the 5th full course caution. This being the 6th. Still at the moment on course for getting somewhere close to the 3:48 distance record. Shea, Adam, you were broadcasting with me at the same time as at the time when Nasser's incident happened. That absolutely extraordinarily similar, the attitude of the car. All right, no other car involved, but the little bump, wiggle to the right, wiggle to the left, snap to the right, almost like an action replay.
Very, very much so. The thing that's interesting and slightly mystifying is there was some question about the Whelen engineering, the car, and the structural rigidity of the replaced pieces or the non-replaced pieces on that car from the incident earlier. I believe that this 8 car has also been in the wars as well. It did have some issues earlier on in the weekend. Spent a lot of time behind the wall when there were practice sessions going on. I'm wondering if maybe the bump there at the apex is triggering something, but there is an undeniable symmetry that you just pointed out. First flying lap for both of these cars. Perhaps the driver is trying to extract too much from the tires when they're not ready.
Real testament to how strong the LMP2 mother chassis is, both in DPIs and of course in the LMP2 category. All of the DPIs and even the new LMDHs will be based on one of the 4 available LMP2 chassis. We've yet to see those new LMP2 designs from the manufacturers, which are the same as they have been. Pits are open, Shea, for the have been open for the prototypes. We were busy making sure everybody was okay, and now open for the GTs as well.
Yeah, and how rude, all these cars sneaking in right past me. Oliver Jarvis is now aboard the 55 Mazda. It's still Simon Pagenaud in the 48 Cadillac. And who else did I see doing driver changes? Oh, for ERA, it's still Ryan Dial. They came in and did a splash of fuel and new tires. And Wayne Boyd, same story for the 22 United Autosport. For the GT cars into the pit lane, we've got the 79 Matty Campbell staying aboard, fuel tires, and finally a windshield tear off for that car. Philip Ang is bringing in the 25 BMW. I think he's getting out of that car. Just looking at my chart, I believe, oh no, he's only done a single stint. They might keep him aboard for a bit longer. Back out and underway for the WeatherTech Ferrari, and it's got a little bit of traffic from the fast Porsche already in the fast lane, who is yielding to the 25 BMW. Oh my goodness, now there is a car on track in between the GTLM leaders. Is it still Ang? Yes, it is. It's still Campbell. The FAF Porsche, which was the first car back off the pit lane, is still Zachary Robichon. And now there is Trent Hinman aboard the Wright Motorsport Porsche, despite the fact that he has already completed his minimum drive time. Oh, and of note, in GTLM, John Edwards is on the 24 BMW now, and Antonio Garcia is back aboard the number 3 Corvette.
Very close indeed, as those 3 cars left. Hello to race driver 4401. Loving what you're hearing. That's very kind of you. It's our pleasure. We live to serve. Been listening since minute 1, turn 10 at Sebring. Good to know. WWOJ 99.1. Who was that on that tower? Was that Ray Red? At turn 1? Of course you were.
Sorry.
Where was the person at the 2 cars went in? Turn 3. Who's at turn 3? It's Buffy at turn 3 on the tower there. 2 hours and 35 minutes to go. Sirius 216 XM 392 WWOJ 99.1 FM around the circuit. Sun's still got a little way to go before it's right behind the horizon. Damon. Well, let's hang on just before I go to you, Nick. Shea Adam is keeping an eye on drive times. I've checked in with our Porsche keys to the race for a wee while. Be there in the dark. Well, that's not that far away. No mistakes. Well, there's been plenty of them, and hardly anybody's been mistake-free. And the tyres. We could have said, never mind getting yourself with some nice sticker sets towards the end, but make sure you warm them up. The Michelin Endurance Championship points are now to be only handed out at the end, but it had seen a little bit of interest there. Watch the watch, Shea, is something I said, and that was all about drive times.
Yes, and although I am not that good that I'm able to have a running clock on each of the 37 cars and each of their 3 drivers and 111 drivers throughout the course of this field, I have been taking notes. And one car of interest, the 48, I have from the last stops back. Let's go. SP, Simon Pagenaud, SP, Simon Pagenaud, Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, Kamui Kobayashi, Kamui Kobayashi, Simon Pagenaud, Simon Pagenaud, Simon Pagenaud. That's 5 stints within the last 9. Tells me that is a lot of drive time for Mr. Pagenaud. So when the official drive time comes out at the bottom of this racing hour, I'll be able to tell you if he has gone over. But I'm hearing, yep, that is going to be bad.
And what happens then? And remember, that car is only joining us for the Michelin Endurance Cup, the number 48 Cadillac. So what happens then? Does it get excluded? Does it have a penalty applied? Does one of the drivers not get their points? What happens?
So here's the interesting thing. We had this exact situation happen last year at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring with the then 48 car. the now one car, Paul Miller Racing, Corey Lewis exceeded drive time. I think it was by about 14 minutes total. What happens is the car is in effect moved to the back of the grid and it is excluded from the final hour tally. But they still scored their Michelin Endurance Cup points that they accrued throughout the course of the race, which actually resulted in them winning the Michelin Endurance Cup. That is interesting when you're in the points as far as the Michelin Endurance Cup goes. Today, the 48 has not scored more than 2 points per segment. They probably will not score more than 2 points unless something happens and they get up to the podium. But they have significantly dropped back as far as the point standings is concerned already, and they look to drop back even further if the results are anything similar to what we're seeing right now on the timing screen.
$5 in the jar for me, by the way, when we were getting all excited at that GT Le Mans lead battle. I think I turned the Stuttgart Stallion into a Maranello trotter. Apologies for that.
But you know, the horse on the Ferrari or on the Porsche logo does have ties to the Ferrari horse.
It's not. I think, if I'm right in saying, the horse on the Porsche logo comes from the city of Stuttgart's crest. The Ferrari logo allegedly came from a pilot who had it on the side of his plane, I think. I haven't looked that up. I should have, really, before I started that sentence.
I'm going to put this out here to Dave Engelman if he's listening in, because he has told me the story before, and I thought he said that the two were connected. So, Dave, if you're listening, can you please send us a line and just, fill in the blanks?
Is Dave listening?
Good point. Good point.
Perhaps they both have ties to Stuttgart, because certainly the horse on the Porsche Shield, which has had a few different iterations down through the years, and actually there's a fascinating, well, for me anyway, fascinating on the internet if you go on and look it up, and how the colours have slightly changed, the design slightly changed, and therefore if you ever need a replacement badge, you've got to get the one from the right era. And as I had somebody pilfer one from the front of my 968.
Those long winter nights must fly by, John.
They do, absolutely. Thank you to Peter Snowden and Callum Lockie. I got the perfect replacement from the mid-90s for the 968 Sport. And actually, Nick Tandy's guys fitted it for me while I was interviewing Nick one day for another reason altogether. So it was all kept in the motorsport family.
I have a question here. If we're right with our summation, why has Simon Pagenaud stayed on board? Because he actually came into the pits and they could have actually changed him about a lap and a half ago. I'm just wondering, does drive time during yellow flags count? Because five stints is 200 minutes, so he's still got another 40 minutes before he'll be over that level anyway. Yeah,
but it's about how many you've done in the previous, how much you've done in the previous 6 hours, Nick.
Yeah. So if you've done 5 stints in the previous 6 hours, that's 200 minutes, which is 3 hours 20. So it's obviously how much yellow, which is putting him over. But they obviously haven't realised this or don't care, because they could have replaced him when they came into the pits 2 laps ago.
That is a fair point. Let's have an update on the Hardpoint EBM number 88 Porsche. Shea Adam?
Bia, as she was getting out of the car and handing over to Catherine Legg, said to the guys on the box, "Be sure to tell Kat the car is coming alive." That 88 Porsche with the champion sponsorship on it, it might not be done quite yet. Running in 7th right now, looking to move up a little bit.
Still on the lead lap in class. I think that's the last car on the lead lap in class. Just a note, by the way, the Sun Energy One Mercedes, which has been up and down and had the traction control and ABS problem. I think at one stage it was 4 laps down. It's now back to a single lap off the lead lap, and has been setting some very, very good times, which is very encouraging. Grenier at the wheel of that car at the moment. Can't be too long away from going back to green. under 2.5 hours to go. And a little bit of brake and tyre warming by the DPIs at the front of the field would suggest to me that we're not a million miles away from going back. In fact, the C8 has disappeared from the front of the field. It's got very dark very quickly in the last few minutes, and the headlights, very effective headlights, are now shining out. It will be Philippe Albuquerque who'll lead them back to green in the Acura number 10. He's on it already, and the green flag is on the air. We'll restart with 2 hours and 27 to go. Scott Dixon in second, Ollie Pla, then Oliver Jarvis in third, and fourth is Simon Pagenaud in fifth position, side by side through turn one. Scott Dixon goes round the outside, and audacious, a superb manoeuvre. What an overtake that was on relatively cold tyres. No fears for the multiple IndyCar champion. And Scott Dixon takes Chip Ganassi's Cadillac number 01 to the lead of the Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring on the restart. Brilliant stuff into the pit lane. That must be the Paul Miller Racing number 1 car, because the GRT Lamborghini is not still circulating. Yes, it is. We'll get across that for you in a moment. That is service for that car, and it looks like they may be taking the rear deck off. There was a splash of fuel, but something's not right with that car. It's still up on the jacks. Meantime, at the front of the field then, Scott Dixon. What a manoeuvre, Nick Damon. Given what we've seen round turn one, it looks absolutely treacherous there, but full confidence on cold tyres at the restart by Scott Dixon, Nick.
Yeah, he got a great run, and he obviously trusted that Philippe Albuquerque wasn't going to try and run him out to the outside of turn one, especially at this point, and then already having been told off for it, to understand. Yeah, that's audacious. So to go there, as you say, with the tyres at best tepid, and then loop around the outside at 140 miles an hour. Fantastic manoeuvre by Scott, and now he's streaking away as well. He's really fancy pace now. It's dark, it's cool, the track is going to give up extra grip until it gets too cold.
Shea Adam, just before, I'll just get the cars across the line, and then there's a raft of penalties coming through, some of which are major ones for the teams involved. Scott Dixon then by 1.5 seconds. GT Le Mans, Matt Campbell in the WeatherTech Porsche side by side with BMW as he came out of the final corner. That was John Edwards, I think, that went through there. So now it's the BMW's first and second. Yes, it is. Campbell down to third, and another 5 seconds further back, Antonio Garcia trying to get back on terms in the number 3 Corvette. I'll keep an eye on that battle between the two BMs and the Porsche. Shea Adam, big penalties coming.
Very big penalties. Car 16, that's the Wright Motorsport Porsche that is currently in second. Trent Heyman, too many people over the wall considered working on the car. That is a drive-through and a huge penalty for John Wright's boys and girls. And also car number 22, that's the United Autosport LMP2 machine, currently running in third position. Improper final wave by, that's massive. Stop plus 3 minutes and 36 seconds. Meanwhile, the Paul Miller Racing Lamborghini is back out around the track. Madison Snow reporting that there is a gearbox issue with that car. He does not have second gear, and he said every time he shifts up, it goes into neutral. That could be terminal.
Oh dear. As soon as you do anything bad, by the way, in the wave bike, you're going to get hit. Really badly hit. Because it's such a big advantage, so you get a big disadvantage, and that's going to. It's not really going to affect the position of the United Autosports car, because the top 3 are so far ahead in LMP2.
Well, there's no other cars running, so he's the final car running, and he's 4 laps behind Ryan DL in second. So yeah, the lap he's going to lose effectively, or another lap he's going to lose, lap and a half, is just going to be 5 laps behind, but still on the podium. But yeah, wonder what they did there. I assume they took the wave by when they shouldn't. They gained the extra lap.
Exactly right. Yeah. Absolutely right. We were pretty spot on actually with the prancing horse logos. Porsche logo is the coat of arms of Weimar, Germany, and the Ferrari logo, as Enzo told it, he met Countess Paolina of Ravenna after winning the race at the Sabio track in 1923, and the Countess told Ferrari to add the logos to the cars, insisting the logo would bring good luck.
That was the only answer.
Yeah, correct. World War I Italian fighter pilot Francesco Baracca had it on the side of his plane. Oh.
The one race they didn't have it on the car, the driver got killed.
Alex Goldschmidt, thank you for firing that in.
Yeah, I've heard the story. Yeah, they whilst it obviously wasn't always lucky because the driver got killed all the time, but one time they didn't have it inside the car, there was a fatality, unfortunately.
Timothy Buret out of the infield care centre, evaluated and released after that huge accident and the rollover right on the arm core. Slightly complicated, I think, by the fact that that was pretty close to one of the cutouts, the alternative track layouts there. So the banks of tyres and the concrete, then there's just a single layer of arm core, double, maybe even triple high, but just arm core and nothing behind it, and no catch fencing, because it's taken away when they use other options here. So that could have been much worse indeed, with that car getting up onto the tyres and rolling over. Thankfully, everybody all right. So, front of the field, 3 seconds between Scott Dixon. He's cleared up. Ollie Clark now in second position for Meyershank Acura. Philippe Albuquerque in third for the other Acura. Hoffaker from DL, but there's a lap there in Pierre Matheson's favour. Wayne Boyd has read a couple of chapters of his book in the penalty box and now rejoins for United Autosports number 22.
The ever-changing colourways of
Of course he was. That's exactly what he was doing. John Edwards passed Matt Campbell, as we mentioned when it happened, at turn 17. So the two BMWs first and second, although there's 4 seconds between them now. And the WeatherTech Porsche still in third position, 5.5 seconds ahead of Antonio Garcia for Corvette. Only now 0.8 of a second between first and second, and the two Riley cars in the LMP3 category, with another 9 seconds further back. Stephen McAleer trying to get back on terms with them in the Duquesne for 47 Motorsports. That's a decent scrap going on there for all three of the podium positions. And in GTD, Zachary Robichon for PAF Porsche by a second from Trent Hinman for Wrights Motorsports Porsche, and then 7.5, 8 seconds back, Frank Montecalvo for Lexus.
Well, big leader in a way is Ollie Jarvis and the Mazda team, which prior to that yellow flag have been leading quite easily, really, haven't they, for the preceding hour and a half or so. But they've dropped down to fourth. They're 7 seconds off the lead. They're behind both the Acuras and the Cadillac and Chip Ganassi Racing. So of the cars that have run relatively trouble-free, or relatively incident-free, shall we say, they're now at the back, and that's a complete turnaround from just before that last yellow flag job.
Yeah, and you just don't know, do you, how things change. How Porsche keys to the race, be there in the dark, but when you're there in the dark, you've got to have the weapons with which to fight. You've got to have the tools in your toolbox. That's a car that's going to work well in the cooler temperatures, a setup that'll energise the tyres. Remember that there's no tyre choice in terms of compound and construction for DPI. They're all the same. Sun Energy 1 car with a left rear light cluster not working. That's Grenier behind the wheel of that car. He's been doing great work, and they are now just a lap away from getting back on the lead lap. It's not even really that now, is it? They're are charging at the moment. 2:03.8 last time around. Spencer Pumpelly put in, so was there a little mistake there? Yes, there was. Just went off at turn 1. Sparks flying from underneath Renier's car. And did he pick up one of the advertising hoardings? Not quite, but through a whole handful of dust. Jack Hawksworth, who is another couple or 3 laps behind. Madison Snow now down to 8th position after that gearbox issue and back in the pits. Still yet to emerge. Shea Adam, I thought I saw a penalty for the right motorsport car for too many people over the wall.
There is active discussion in the pit box, the number 16 pit box for Right Motorsport. They're arguing their side of it. So while they argue, Trent Inman is allowed to continue out around the track. But the good news is that because they pulled it off of the race control channel, it doesn't mean that Trent will be black flagged after passing start-finish 3 times without serving the penalty in effect.
Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
You're obviously saying that whoever the extra person was, be it Barry or Gladys, was actually just looking, wasn't actually helping with the mechanicking. There's obviously they're going to need to find some stills, sort of showing people actually doing the work, aren't they?
Well, I know as soon as you go over the wall, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're only allowed a certain amount of people, and you can't go over the wall until the car's standing still either. So,
well, they've written more than admitted, number over wall, considered working on the car. So, as you say that, yes, if you're over the wall, you consider working on the car.
Correct.
The argument must be that person wasn't working on the car. So, if they can prove that that's a long conversation, which would probably end in the same situation, same penalty being applied.
2 hours and 15 minutes to go. A reminder, as we mentioned earlier, and thanks again to the official sources who, when we were talking about this, confirmed it for us. Drive time infraction for the 48. I believe that's now been mentioned by Jimmy Johnson on the TV coverage in the NBC as well. So that means, as Shea said at the time that we were talking about it, it will finish last in its class, whatever happens. So, I suppose, Shea, you could just park the car up now, couldn't you? You're not going to do any better.
Not quite sure why they kept Pageant on board. They recognised as a problem. Unless it's a standard penalty, like if you're 1 minute over or the entire race over, it's still the same.
It's any of the drive time penalties results in what Shea was saying. You get thrown to the back of your class, and in fact, we saw somebody at Road Atlanta. I can't remember if it was the 6 hours or Motul Patila Morning Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. They realised that they'd messed up and couldn't get in because of a yellow flag, and as we said at the time, I think I would have taken the penalty for entering a closed pit to change the guys, and they stayed out, and then once they realised what had happened, they just parked the car. Who was that, Shea? Can you remember? It was a Michelin Pilot race, I think.
Yeah. It was in Pilot Challenge. It was Carbon. Jeff Westfall and Tyler Macquarie.
Well done.
And Jeff wasn't going to get enough drive time, and so by parking the car and having a DNF, they weren't thrown to the back of the class. They were able to finish ahead of the cars that DNF'd, if you see what I mean. They would have been thrown out behind all of them, so they still gained more points that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the car bomb by Peregrine machine. So it's not unheard of. That's why we were talking about it at the time. As I say, since we were talking about it, half an hour or so ago, Jimmy Johnson on the NBC interview saying that that has been confirmed now. Chad Knaus is getting the beers in tonight then for everybody. Nick, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to swap you out of the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre and bring Jeremy Shaw back in. Hope you've enjoyed being with us, and thank you very much indeed. And we'll talk to you in the Michelin Pro Series coverage coming up from the 8th of April with iRacing.
Can't wait.
Thanks, Nick. Nick Damon in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre with me, John Hindhaugh. Jeremy Shaw on his way back will be with us in a wee moment or two. Just time to tell you of our leaders in the Mazda in-race update. It's Scott Dixon leading DPI in the race overall for the 0-1 Cadillac from Chip Ganassi. PR1 Matheson Scott Huffaker leads LMP2 in 8th position in the 52 overall. Then it's Team RLL, BMW, Philippe Eng, GT Le Mans leader, the 25 car. That's the bright red machine, if you can see it in the darkness. Riley Motorsports, Dylan Murray in LMP3 in the number 91 Ligier. Pfaff Motorsports, Zachary Robichon leads the number 9 Porsche in GT Daytona. It is live coverage of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, presented by... Oh, sorry, I turned my mic off there. It is live coverage of the annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Good to have your company. This is IMSA Radio. Just after 8 o'clock in the evening, 2 hours and 11 minutes to go. Jeremy Shaw back with us here in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, and getting ready for the run to the flag. Before Nick disappeared, he made the point that seemingly the combination that has lost out most since we went back to green most recently is the Mazda Motorsports number 55 car. It's only in 4th position, but it has dropped back a little bit, and the lap times are not certainly what Scott Dixon had put at the front of the field, but then again nobody else is either.
No, Dixie is absolutely flying. The problem for Oliver Jarvis is he's stuck behind Philip Albuquerque. He just can't get around him. It's both of those two. I mean, the 0-1 car of Scott Dixon is pulling away gradually from Olivier Pla in 2nd place. Pla is pulling away from the train of cars led by Albuquerque. It also includes Jarvis, Pagenaud and Duval. So they've got that 4-car train there. The Mazda did a fantastic job while it was out in front. But during that last round of pit stops, for some reason they lost a bit of time, and they came into the pits in 1st position, left in 4th, and that's where they are right now.
Is this a case, Jeremy, of a car that doesn't follow very well but leads excellently in terms of aero or setup or something like that?
No, I think it's just out of track position, and they lost time during that latest round of stops, and try and find out why, because their pit stops up until then had been sensational. Because I think the 0-1 car was behind the 55 for a good long time, couldn't find a way past, tried on a couple of occasions to come in on a slightly different strategy to leapfrog the number 55, wasn't able to do so. It was only finally during that caution period that the 0-1 car was able to do so. It could be that the 55 car took on more fuel than the others, or number 0-1 in particular took on a little less in order to leapfrog it. That will become apparent as this stint progresses.
So Jeremy Shaw back with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Mazda is sitting right up behind Philippe Albuquerque at the moment, but can't make the pass. Here's the right Porsche into the pit lane. Shea Adam, any resolution on that penalty, no penalty call?
Penalty is the resolution on that one. The Wright Motorsport Porsche with Trent Hinman behind the wheel, having argued their case to IMSA, it was still decided that they had more people working over the wall than were permitted. So the drive-through has been called, the drive-through has been served, and Trent Hinman now rejoins a very dark racetrack where he is out there all on his own.
Right, so that could be very costly indeed. That will drop them out of the hottest part of the fight in GT Daytona. Pompelli come through yet? I'm not sure he has. I'll check that. Say again?
Everyone past him. I believe Cat Leg is ahead of him on track as well.
So that's going to drop down to 6th place then?
I believe so.
Right, okay. Well, that has been a costly mistake. No pit, no mistakes in the pit. It was part of our Porsche keys to the race and a Porsche team. Oh, dear me. Dear me. You fight, we said it at the start of the Michelin Countdown to Green, you fight so hard for track position to give it up. Obviously there was quite a bit of discussion going on there. They fought their case. That's what your team manager's there to do, present the evidence if you've got it, try and work it through. But penalty does stand. So Robichon from Monte Calvo, from Pompelli, from Gunn, from Leg, from Hindman. Now, as that 16 car drops down the timing screen. Let's start looking at the next set of pit stops. Philippe Albuquerque must be due in very shortly, unless he has sneaked in and out. No, he has not. He's had 20 laps under the wheels, but 6 of those were under the caution flags, so maybe a couple more laps to go. But he will be the first of the leading prototypes to come back to the pit lane. Battle in LMP2, Scott Huffaker. He's going to pit before Ryan DL. Ryan had a little splash about 15 laps ago, which puts him 7 laps better off, but he isn't quite on the lead lap. And DL not with the pace last time around of Scott Huffaker, about a second or so slower than the leader on track. Full dark now, Jeremy. It's where you find out if your headlights were pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, they'd certainly better be. And it's a wonderful time of the race at night time. I always say, particularly here at Sebring, where there's nothing like the same amount of illumination as there is at Daytona for the 24 hours, and everything stands out. The brake rotors, you can see them glowing much more clearly. Any incidents out on track as well. You're not going to get away with it, even if it's even though it's dark outside. Here's a pit stop for that leader in LMP2.
Yeah, spot on time, I reckon that. It's around about 23 laps, and that's the sort of lappery they've been doing. There's been a bit of yellow.
Including the caution period.
Yeah.
It's only about 20-21 laps.
Correct. The last couple have had yellow flag share.
Since you have the magical ability to confirm the driving pattern, would you be so kind as to pull it up for the 52? Because if that was a driver change, which I think it was, Mikkel Jensen's helmet back behind the wheel of the 52 for PR1 Matheson. No, it's still Scott Huffington.
No, it's still Scott.
Because it's been Scott and Mikkel back and forth for a long time during this race. The last 8 stops have been bouncing back and forth between the two of them. Do they have enough drive time each left to make it within the 4 and any 6?
Ben Keating was last in the car. He got out at 25 past 2 in the afternoon. So that was quite a long time ago. That was 6 hours ago.
Yeah, so 7.5 hours to go in the race at that point, or 8.5. No, 8.5.
Yeah.
So that means that between these two drivers, they're going to have to do 8.5 hours of the race, and they're not allowed to do any 4 hours in any 6 hour period. that's getting a little bit messy
and
for that.
That's why I've said watch the watch in our Porsche Keys to the Race here, because it's not just about getting Ben Keating his 3 hours. He's done that. He's over 3.5 hours, but it's when those stints come. He did a relatively long set of stint at the beginning, did about 26 laps at the beginning, and then he, in fact no, he did a bit more than that, because he did a double, what was effectively a double at the start of the race, and then he did another stint to get his time up, but he's not been in the car since then. So it's the 4 in any 6 that is catching people out here, Shea, rather than anything else.
Yeah, and for Ben Keating, the easiest way to look at it, he did 5 of the first 6 stints, and ever since then it's been Mickle and Scott. But the thing that concerns me is the amount of time that was left on the clock when Ben got out, finishing his final stint. We've got another situation like that where Spencer Pumpelly and Andy Lally will be bouncing back and forth in the Magnus Racing Acura. Now, they do have the brilliant mind of Mike Johnson on the box for that one, so I'm slightly less concerned, but it's still those two sharing the car back and forth for what will be, 8.5 hours of the race from the last time that John Potter got out of that car.
Yeah, well, he got out a very long time ago. He got out, he's done his 3 hours. There we go, he did another stint. So he did a stint at the beginning, a couple of hours at the beginning, and then he jumped in again and got out at a little before 4 o'clock, 10 minutes before 4 o'clock.
Okay, so that's 6 hours to the end of the race for Spencer and Andy to share back and forth between, so they should be okay. Yeah. But that 52 car, that's concerning me, and they are leading the LMP2 class.
Coming down to the last 2 hours of the race, all of these things in play. Porsche Keys to the Race was watch the watch. That's what we're looking at now, and being there in the dark. At the moment, the best car in the dark, undoubtedly, and the best car and driver combo in the dark is the leader. 10.8 seconds now. Scott Dixon, Jeremy Shaw over Ollie Clark in the MSR number 60 Acura. This has been a fantastic run for Scott Dixon. Then it's Albuquerque, and Ollie Jarvis still there, just about a second away from a podium position in that 55 Mazda, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's been a great run by Scott Dixon. Of course, one wouldn't really expect anything different, would one? But he is a star. He's pulled out that lead now in 12 laps to 11 seconds over the second place car, Olivier Pla. Yeah, number 55. The reason it had a slightly longer stop during that most recent caution period and therefore lost those positions was the fact that the previous stop was a bit earlier than they wanted to come in because they had a problem with the radio, so therefore they needed a bit more fuel on the latest stop. That's why the stop was a bit longer. That's why they've fallen back into fourth position. And the bad news is they're just stuck behind Philippe Albuquerque. I think the car is working quite well now. The radio problem that had caused the earlier stop has also been fixed, so that's the good news for the Mazda team. But they're stuck behind number 10. But of course, still. We're actually under 2 hours to go in this race now, aren't we? Just,
yeah. As I threw it to you, Jeremy, we were going under the 2 hour mark. At the end of the race, the checkered flag finishes the 12 hours of Sebring, but starts our Michelin post-race tech. And that's where you get to control the editorial. Tweet your questions, point to rising, observations, or whatever you want to say to at IMSA Radio, hashtag Michelin PRT. Already beginning to get some questions in for that, coming in from quite early on in the race. Shea Adam, hearing the bad news from Paul Miller Racing. That car's not going back out.
Nope, officially retired. When was the last time that Paul Miller Racing had a mechanical retirement? It's been a while for that.
Are we confirming that was a gearbox issue or some kind of gear selection issue at least? Here comes Philippe Albuquerque, get back to that in a moment. Into the pit lane, this is the number 10 Acura DPI from Cunningham and Alter, the Wayne Taylor Racing Run team. And Shea Adam is watching this, the blue light on the top of the fin, making the identification a little easier.
And per their rotation, it should be Alexander Rossi getting back aboard this car. We are under 2 hours to go. So you would imagine that this could be the last driver change that they do in this race. Well, it is Alexander Rossi getting back aboard this car, but I would expect Ricky Taylor to take it to the checkers. They are doing fuel and tires. Perhaps this is going to be a double stint for Rossi on this one, and then a double stint for Taylor to go to the end. Interesting that Albuquerque was leaning over the wall there, staring at the right side of the car, as if trying to see some damage on the car. I don't see any damage on that car, but I don't get to stare at it for very much longer because Alexander Rossi wants it back on the racetrack, and who can blame him?
It's been a bit of physicality throughout the field. Some more controversial than others. Scott Dixon. All of a sudden, 13.5 seconds up the road. Scott Huffaker now only 45 seconds ahead of Brian DL, but Brian will have to pit shortly and make the stop that Scott did, what, 4 laps ago now? 3 laps ago. This is the best part of this race, I think, into the dark. I love racing in the dark. There's just something slightly illicit about it, almost like you shouldn't be doing it. You're getting away with something a wee bit naughty. Fantastic stuff. Some drivers don't like driving in the dark, others love it. And that often is part of the tactics as well. New fastest GT Le Mans race lap, Matt Campbell in the Porsche of WeatherTech Racing, a 1:55.7, Jeremy, 7:32, a tad quicker than the 55.736 from Antonio Garcia, who's only 2 seconds behind Matt Campbell. Those guys trading tenths of seconds, but that is a new fastest race lap in this race. How does that look as far as lap times we've seen in the past from GT Le Mans?
Stomped it. The old record was Nicky Katzberg last year in November, 1:57.038. That's an average speed of 115 miles an hour, so they're going quicker than that now.
Wow.
Yeah, full that time 55.7. So that's 1.3 seconds quicker. That's astonishing, isn't it?
It really is. Jeremy, we've got a problem for Mike Conway, another problem for the Whelen Cadillac, 7th position, trying to fight to get back on the lead lap. They'd reduced that back to 3, but that car has ground to a halt out of turn 7, driver's right, and that might cause a bit of a scramble in case there's a full course yellow. And indeed the leader, Scott Dixon, is immediately into the pit lane. In fairness, he was due in anyway, I think, Shea. Yes, he was. Yeah. So it wouldn't have made that much difference.
No, it definitely triggered a slew of pit stops, though, as far as the DPI category is concerned. Scott Dixon staying aboard that 0-1 for Chip Ganassi Racing. Also into the pits, we've got the 55 Mazda. Smart move there. Ollie Jarvis staying aboard that car. They are doing fuel and tires for the Mazda. Who else came in? Oh, Simon Pagenaud came in the 48, which we believe will be moved to the back of the class after the race for the drive time infringement, which Jimmy Johnson even admitted. We've got, that should be Kamui Kobayashi getting aboard that car, by the way. And Olivier Plot is into the pit lane in the number 60 for Meyer Shank Racing. He's been out there for a double, so I would expect Dane Cameron to be taking over that car once again. Not
coming in, the Acura, of course, the number 10 car, which we just put Rossi into because he was in literally the last move on fire in the pit lane. On the 24 BMW, swiftly dealt with underneath the car. Looked like a fuel overspill. The driver change still going on. So that was a problem with the fuel filler going in, I think. Various other cars having to pull around that 24 BMW. John Edwards brought that car in. Some consternation there. There was a driver change going on as well, Adam.
Yeah, there was, and that was Jesse Krohn climbing aboard that car. He's gotten out of the car. It is filled with extinguishant, so that would be hard to breathe in that 24 BMW. They were running second on the track. Full course caution is out on the racetrack, by the way. That confusion that we saw ahead of the BMW, both of the Riley LMP3 machines coming in together. Jerome Bleekemolen taking over for Dylan Murray in the 91, and the 74 of Scott Andrews being pushed way back down the pit lane because well overshot its box as well. That was a big fire.
Yeah, it was the fuel nozzle going in didn't properly connect and clearly spilled fuel over the hot car. But fantastic work, and that's why you have to have a fire bottle over the wall. That's part of the safety. There was also fire bottles being used from the other side of the pit wall. Excellent stuff from everybody there. Scary moment. Small bit of fuel can make a very spectacular looking fire in the pit lane, and they have now got the fuel nozzle on, and the refueling is happening. That 24 BMW looking more like it's just come off the Dakar Rally than round at Sebring. I thought I'd seen the note that the 31 car had resumed virtually the moment that the full course yellow came out, but if it hasn't got very far, and Mike Conway is going to need some assistance to get back to the pits. So that 31 car, the Whelen Cadillac, brings to an end almost 35 minutes of green flag racing, and is the 7th time we've been under full course yellow. Still tantalisingly close to the distance record. If we can keep it going. Happened to Conway out on the far side of the circuit, going through turns 3, 4, 5 and through Gurney Bend under the drive over bridge, and looks to be just slowing down as if he's got no drive or no power, and gradually just coasting to the hairpin. It's not been their day, Jeremy, has it, the 31 team? It really hasn't.
No, it really hasn't. You're right. It all started to go wrong badly with the incident for it was Felipe Nasser, wasn't it, right after that pit stop a long time ago now. They battled back really well, and then they had another drama, and that looks like the end of that uphill fight for number 31 team. What a shame. Most unfortunate for them. Pipo Derani, of course, a 3-time winner here of this race, loves Sebring International Raceway, but it's not going to be that team's day today. Another note, by the way, on that number 55 car, the problem they had, the radio problem they had was they'd had it for several hours, and there was a loose as a connector for the helmet system, and it wasn't working, so they swapped out that connector, and it's all fixed again now. So that's certainly good news for number 55 car. And during this round of pit stops, they have managed to leapfrog ahead of that number 10 car that came in a couple of laps earlier. So that is certainly good news for number 55. It's up into 3rd position now, ahead of the number 10 car. And we'll see whether he can maintain the pace of the other 2 leaders, Scott Dixon and Ollie Pla, at the restart.
Jeremy Shaw in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre. Adam VP Fuel, Racing Fuel, Pit and Paddock reporter. Sorry, I was grinding to a halt in much the same way as Mike Conway was there. Bit of a debate going on the picked up by the effects mics there. So inside the last 2 hours by 12 minutes, and should get the pits open shortly. The 24 BMW has dropped down to 4th in class, but is running and is... Oh. Now, what's the car behind it? Is that the number 3 of Antonio Garcia? If so, he's dropped off the lead lap, hasn't he? Yeah, he's dropped off the lead lap in GT Le Mans with that flame out in the pit lane.
Did that pull the bodywork away from the right rear quarter panel?
Don't think so.
It just looks a little bit funny from the one camera angle that I was able to see. I'll have another look when it comes back into the pit lane at some point and has much better illumination.
Pass around going on at the moment. You have to keep your wits about you even doing that, because there's track services vehicles trying to get rid of the shingle off the racing line. Right, Jeremy, if we start thinking from the end of the race to the beginning, it's around about 40 minutes at the end of the race to now, rather. It's around about 40 minutes for the DPIs, isn't it? Pit stop, and we've got 106 minutes. Say we get down to somewhere near 90 minutes, maybe 95 minutes. If we can get this done in 10 minutes, this is going to be really interesting about when people take pit stops and when they don't. Take a pit stop now, you could get down to about an hour to go.
Well, yeah, they've just made a stop, of course. They've just been into the pit, so I think 2 more stops should be okay. Most likely with this caution, depending on how long it is, should be just 2 more stops, I would think, from here.
Kyle Tilley,
Fairly comfortable, I think.
Yes, Kyle Tilley got aboard the LMP2 number 18 second place car. On the last stop, I'm trying to yell and go out. IMSA Radio, live coverage, Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring, presented by Advanced Auto Parts. Hello to you, whether you're listening around the circuit on the PA system. Thanks, Tyler and the rest of the team. 99.1 FM, WWOJ. Sirius 216 XM 392. Carl Robinson, part of our XM audience. Some great pictures coming in at IMSA Radio of a variety of car dashboards with the XM Sirius displays on them. Thank you for that at IMSA Radio. And of course, RS2 is IMSA Radio. Every hour of every day, IMSA content playing out via the player live audio tab on www.imsaradio.com, www.imsaradio.com. Why we've got a moment as well, I think I said this earlier on, but if I didn't, I must have thought it. Paul Marquardt is celebrating his birthday today. One of the collective, good friend of ours, hard worker as well, and big Tom Christensen fan. And I haven't forgotten about what we were talking about, Paul, don't worry. Working with the big fella. And also, I did mention this earlier on, but one of our technical team, part of Tyler's technical team at the track, Keegan's birthday as well this race weekend. So there will be some celebrations once the hard work has ended, and they are some of the hardest working people at the track and responsible for getting our technicals at the track up and running. All the soundboard, mixing gear, connections to the PA system, timing and scoring, and video to all of the IMSA broadcasts that we do. So thank you very much indeed. Quick look before anything else happens as to what is going on in GT Daytona. want to see if the Sun Energy 1 car and Michael Grenier has managed to get back on the lead lap. I think he might have. Where is the 75? Must be close. Must be close.
He still went very slowly through the first sector, John, which makes me think that he's in the safety car train.
Yeah.
Whereas Zach Veach, for example, in the 12, who's chasing up to the safety car train, one position ahead of him, was going very quick through sector 1.
Yeah. I think what happened is Zach Veach got in before the yellow. I can possibly scroll back to see that, can't quite get down as far as well, but you can. I think Zach Veach maybe got in before the yellow, which when this cycles through, if all the other GT Daytona cars come in, and they're all, the top 3 are in the 20s, laps completed. Trent Hinman's in the, has just done 12 laps. Catherine Leggs 24. Yeah, Zach Veach did get in just before the yellow.
He came in 3 laps before. He came on lap 270, I think. Came out of second position, and around about the same time, the Aston Martin Ross Gunn managed to get past Spencer Pompelli, which therefore became the second place in the class, because I think it was Robert McGuinness who was driving number 12 at that stage, before handing over to Zach Veach, who will bring that car home to the finish. That's the plan. So past for what became second place, and the Aston in second place. So it's Porsche, Aston Martin, Acura, Porsche, Trent Hinman and Catherine Legg. This caution period is certainly excellent news for number 16, having served that penalty a little while ago. So this gets them very much back in the game. And then Catherine Legg also, and then Zach Veach, as you say, still on the lead lap. The problem for Michael Grenier is that the race leader was actually top 3 haven't come into the pit lane, so that's why the number 75 car remains a lap down in GTD.
Did Veach have to come in there, or was that a planned stop, do you think, Jeremy?
It's a very good question. No, he wouldn't have needed to have come in then. You're absolutely right. So, but I think he probably realised that from there they can get to the end on just one more pit stop. So I fancy the number 12 car made that stop as soon as they thought they could get to the end with just one more pit stop. That's conjecture. Here, though, is the number 9 car, so this is going to get an opportunity for the number 75 potentially to get back onto the lead lap.
Shea Adam is watching the stop of the Pfaff Porsche, and they look like they got jumped in the pit lane by the other Vassar Sullivan Lexus.
They did get passed by one of the Vassar Sullivan Lexuses. Yeah, I believe you're correct. I believe that was the 12. That was the driver change. Zach Robichon out. Lawrence Vantor trying to take it to the checkered flag. There was also a pit stop for the Magnus with Archangel Racing number 44 Acura. That was Spencer Pompelli bringing it in. I think I saw Heidi Lally taking it over to take it to the checkers. In terms of Porsches, we've got the 88 in. That was Kat Legg bringing it in. It should be her staying aboard with fuel and new tires, as well as a windshield tear-off. So a nice little treat for Kat. Who else did I see? Ross Gunn was in the pit lane, in and out, fuel and tires. No driver change there. It was Lally aboard the Acura, by the way. And Patrick Long saved the best for last aboard the 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche to the end. Can he do it 2 years in a row?
I can. Will he though? That's the big question. It's big. Well, all kinds of stragglers trying to get back on the end of the safety car train, and we're getting the final wave by starting right now. So if you're trackside listening to us here on IMSA Radio and you can see cars going by, that's fine. We've had the wave by. This is the final opportunity for that to happen. Shea has an LMP3 class update. 7th and 8th for the leading pair.
just gotten a text message and made me quite happy because LMP3 has been Riley Motorsports pretty much all day, dominating with 47, hanging on. Well, guess what, guys? Core Autosport is back in this fight. They are on the lead lap. Colin Brown behind the wheel of the 54. What can he do trying to win Sebring for the third time in his career with this team?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I gave you the positions of the leading pair in P2, LMP3. Yeah, absolutely. Colin Brown with Austin McCusker ahead of him, 47 Motorsport in the Duquesne. Spencer Piggott and Jerome Blingham all in the leading pair, second and first. 91 leads, 74 seconds, 7th, 3rd, 54 in 4th position. Jan Claret, by the way, has now got behind the wheel of the Sean Creech Motorsport Ligier. He is a lap off that category lead. Are we ready? I think so. What have we got? 97 minutes to go. 300 laps completed. Ready to go back to green. Now's the time. If you've got any kind of pace left, there's no point in hiding it here. So, just to confirm, by the way, that Zach Veach pitted a second time during that yellow to top that car off. And so
just a quick splash, yes.
Yeah, and that means that the tail end of the lead lap, back on the tail end of the lead lap, is the Grenier 75 Sun Energy 1 AMG. They were 4 laps down after the issues that they have had with inconsistent ABS and traction control. And remember, that car was in the wall, backed into the wall. Kenny Habul struggling with that car's personality, shall we say. And that was at turn 7. Oh, brilliant. Brilliant by the guys on the wall from Gradient to try and get that car fettled, and by the man at the head of Gradient, that's Andres, who's calling the strategy there, and they've used every opportunity possible. Can they win? Who knows? But they've put themselves in with a chance, Jeremy, and that's exactly what we were talking about in the Porsche keys to the race. If you're on the lead lap with maybe a pit stop to go in the dark, then you've given yourself a chance, a decent chance at that round here, because strange things happen on the far side of the track in the dark at Sebring. It's a bit like the front row of a scrub.
Brilliant, isn't it? And look who's leading in GTLM all of a sudden. Oh, he's not actually now. I guess he just come in for a splash.
Must have.
I think maybe just came in for a splash on the number 3 car, but he was shown briefly in the lead of the class. Quite sure why that happened.
Yeah, still showing on my timing, but it'll update it again in a moment. Looks like we're going back.
I think it's right actually. I think
you are right.
Yeah. So he's leapfrogged through there. That car was, they all needed a similar amount of fuel, I think, all of the GTLM cars. No, I lied, because number 24, where's number 24? Oh, 24 cars had a problem. The number 3 car was in at the same time as the number 24. 24 then had the pit lane fire, which is most unfortunate. But number 3 car then, when everybody else came in just now under the caution period, number 3 car also came in, but it only needed a splash of fuel. So that's why the other 25 and number 79 need a lot more fuel. Therefore, the number 3 car leapfrogged ahead of them, and it will be in the lead for the restart with just over an hour and a half remaining in this race.
Yeah, 93 minutes on the clock as they come down the back straight. So the final wave by completed. Are we going green this time around? It will be Scott Dixon once again, who absolutely nailed the restart last time. Yep, the C8 has disappeared, and he's gone early again, coming into 17. That's another brilliant restart. Ollie Pla slightly caught on the hop as we go back green with exactly 93 minutes still to run at the 2021 Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring. And it's the bright green light on the top of the leading car, signifying that Cadillac of Chip Ganassi Racing. The purple light in second place is that of Ollie Pla, and then it's someone's out of place there. I don't think that's the Mazda with the green light on the top. I'll stand to be corrected on that. Oh yeah, it is. I am corrected, and I am standing. Ollie Jarvis, Mazda. Well, you know me, can't commentate sitting down, not when it's like this.
The 24 BMW did get going, didn't it?
Oh yes. Yeah. It dropped one lap, Jeremy. Dropped off the lead lap, should I say? It's down towards the back of the queue of cars. It's actually got the Corvette Racing number 4 of Alexander Sims in behind it, which is another 2 laps further back in that battle for 4th and 5th. Why is the 25 showing as stopped? Is that just a timing glitch? Hopefully, yes. That was the car in second. Yes, Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, big shuffle around GTD. All of a sudden, it's Zach Beach who leads the class in the Lexus from the FAF Porsche, and the Aston Martin is down to 3rd position. I'm pretty sure Ross Gunn took the, I think the order was 23, 16, 12 and 9 at the restart. It's now 12, 9, 23. And where's the number 16 car? Is that next up? Yeah, it is. I think it's next.
Shep?
5th. Lally is up to 4th.
Right, okay.
That Merlin to the 16.
Right, now I'm... we've got Conor De Filippi is restored on the timing screen, so just a few 1s and 0s that had gone missing for a brief moment. Action down towards the hairpin again for the DPIs, the side-by-side contact, leaning on each other again down there, and that's right in behind the number 48 Cadillac. That was all going on. So was that Rossi and Bourdais that were having a little bit of side-by-side? So difficult to tell the cars in the darkness. It was, yeah, it was the number 5 car of Bourdais, and what was the other car involved there? It was the 10. Yeah, I thought it was Rossi. That means he's dropped back a couple of positions since the restart. Thank you, Shea. Yeah, I was sort of second guessing myself, because he shouldn't have been behind the 48. Say again, Jeremy?
No, that's right. Okay, fine. Yeah. He was in 4th position ahead of the 48 and the 5.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why I second guessed myself. Problem for Alexis, I think. Both together there now, both with damage to the right rear. It's the 12 car. It's the 12 Lexus. They've both got missing bodywork on the right rear. So that is the leader, or was the leader in GTD. Lawrence Vanto's gone through. He's going to have a puncture, I think. There goes the Aston Martin as well. Ross Gunn going into second. So there's been a little tap there, maybe a love tap further round the circuit. Oh, that was a hit by the FAF Porsche. Just clipped the right rear, and that again is going to attract the attention of the stewards. Now race director straight into the pit lane, refueled, drag the bodywork off the rear of the car on the right hand side. Having a good look around it, Shea.
They really are taking their time. No fuel going into the car at this point, tire only.
It was a very small splash of fuel because they hadn't long since been out the pitch here, so that was again topped up. Yeah.
Sorry, no, what I meant was the clock continued to count up and the car was not leaving, and it wasn't because the fuel probe was still attached. It was because the crew was investigating the car to make sure that it was all okay. Now the question is he going out or is he turning right to go back behind the wall?
Well,
and the answer is out of the pits.
If that was Zach Veach, which it was, he's going to have to come in again. He passed before the green. So Jeremy was saying there'd been a bit of a shuffle in GTD. Well, the shuffle was an illegal shuffle, dealing from the bottom of the pack. So he will have to come through again, drive-through penalty. So that again is a mistake that could have been avoided. The contact on the restart lap. Now, get a little more leeway on starts and restarts, but I wonder if, because the Lexus had already transgressed, that might say that he shouldn't have been in that place in the first place, in that position.
It's been shuffled around there in GTD. GTLM, it's still nose to tail now with the Corvette ahead of the BMW and then the Porsche. Antonio Garcia ahead of Colin Filippi, ahead of Matthew Jaminet. And so with this, an hour and 26 minutes remaining, that battle very much on again now. And the Corvettes, they've got their track position back again. The car seems to have been running fairly well through that last stint. We worried about it, we wondered about it a bit before that because they'd fallen back and didn't seem to be making up any ground. But now they are back in the lead of this race once again for Corvette Racing.
Extraordinary how they managed to plan and scheme their way back into things. Very impressive indeed. So just to confirm that we did get the Sun Energy One back onto the lead lap in GT Daytona at that last caution. So Zach Veach is the 7th car, Maro Engel is the 6th car in the lead lap. Zach Veach will have to go through the pits again. He's the 7th car on the lead lap. He's going to lose a little more ground, might just stay on that lead lap, just stay on that lead lap in GTD.
Maybe. Close.
Yes, yeah, maybe, yes.
Maro Engel had, excuse me, John, sorry, Maro Engel had got the wave around, so he's back on the lead lap, but he's quite a long way back because he had not caught up to the back of the field where we went back to green. So the good news is he's on the lead lap, but he kind of needs another caution period, that Sun Energy One Mercedes number 75, to get back on terms with the other leaders in GT Daytona.
We wouldn't bet on it, like we would bet against it, would you? Colin Brown on a charge as well in LMP3. We said he got back on the lead lap. He's made use of getting back on the lead lap, Jeremy, and now he's only 0.3 of a second away from the lead. Jerome Blakenmolen versus Colin Brown versus Spencer Piggott in the top 3, separated by about a second in LMP3. Yes, please. Absolutely fantastic, this LMP race. LMP3 race. Adam, you're enjoying it as well. You've got to say, it's great to have Colin back. Underused talent in the last couple of years, to be fair.
Agreed.
Sorry, Shay, say again.
And now he's leading. He got around Jerome Blakenmolen somehow on that lap, and Colin Brown, the next time he crosses start-finish, will be credited as the leader of the LMP3 class. What a fight back.
Well, you said it, Shay, watch out for fireworks when it looked like he was going to get back on the lead lap. Absolutely outstanding. Zach Veach back in to the pits. Now, this is his drive-through for overtaking before the green flag. That will drop him further down. As Jeremy said, that's going to be close to dropping him off the lead lap, a new fastest lap in GT Daytona. 2 minutes .861 by the... This is a Porsche time of day now, I always reckon. And Lawrence Vanteur is absolutely on it. He's really saved the best till last here, Jeremy. 2 minutes .861 in GT Daytona. How does that look as far as lap records are concerned?
Well, we'd already beaten the lap record, haven't we? You're absolutely right. So the old record was 2 minutes .6. I beg your pardon. No, so we hadn't quite caught up.
Not quite. 2 tenths off.
So yeah, we're a couple of tenths away now. 20.861 against 20.628. So just a couple of tenths of a second he needs to find if he wants to etch his name in the record books.
Wouldn't put it past him doing that either, to be honest, when Vanteur gets in to this kind of mood. And he is the qualifying specialist, let's not forget. When he was winning championships with Earl Bamber, he would do the qualifying, set the car up and qualify, do the first stint. Earl would do the long stint. Larry knows where to find pace from a car. He's got, what, 80 minutes there or thereabouts to get this car to the end. And at the moment, he is absolutely on it. As is Scott Dixon at the front of the field. He's making mid-speed with some big names here. Once again, the Cadillac Chip Ganassi racing team have given him a really good car, but Scott's using it very well indeed. Now 3.5 seconds since the restart out of Olivier Pla. Oliver Jarvis is another 2.7 further back, then 1.3 to Kobayashi, who's no slouch. Only driver in the 46ers last time around, Scott Dixon.
So we turned F46, I think. Yeah, it's been a while. So looking back down, I think I can't see the last 46. It has been quite a while ago. So just tremendous, taking full advantage of the fact that the sun has gone down, so the temperatures are even cooler. The track is clear, though, more particularly ahead of Scott Dixon. So he is just laying down some good laps, trying to extend his advantage. So when he does reach the traffic, which won't be very long, he'll be able to. He'll be a little bit more circumspect in picking his way through if he's got a handy lead already.
Yeah. Another one of the blurry band races which we start the IMSA calendar. Rolex 24 at Daytona. Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring, presented by Advanced Auto Parts. Actually the 36 hours of Florida, isn't it? These two races. And these are big races. These are races, Jeremy, that any pro, doesn't matter what you've won, how many championships you've won, how many big events you've won, these races, they stand out. They've got history, they've got provenance, looks good on your CV for you, for your team and for your manufacturer.
It does, and it was 46.86 last time, this last lap, 46.85 the lap before that for Scott Dixon. How about that?
He knows how to pedal a car, that lad, doesn't he? He really does.
Yeah, he has a future ahead of him, doesn't he?
Ah, yes. Yeah. Maybe you should think about doing this full time, to be honest. I mean, everybody. I know everybody says this, Jeremy, but you've been around the IndyCar paddock for a long time as well. A phenomenal character. Lovely bloke, and the kind of relationship and the longevity of relationship that he's had with Chip Ganassi, it just really, in all honesty, it doesn't happen anymore in racing. It's almost, it's almost the stuff of years gone by.
Yeah, he is ages, it seems like to me, Scott Dixon. Hey, by the way, there's we talked about Antonio Garcia a little while ago. He's just set a new fastest lap of the race, which is also, I think, a lap record. Yeah, we're well underneath the old lap record. 55.642 for Antonio Garcia, the leader in GTLM, just trying to stretch away from Conor De Filippi and Matthew Jaminet. He was still only maybe a couple of tenths quicker than De Filippi on that last lap, and Jaminet turned a 55.8, which is just a tenth away from his best lap of the race. So it really is, the battle is very much on and being fought hard in GTLM as always, I guess.
Yeah. Proof we needed. You only need 2 cars to make a race. Well, we've got 3 here on the lead lap. 3 within 2 seconds at the moment. And you know, if you know anything, that one is not over yet. Oh, bit of drafting going on between Jarvis, and I think that was Kobayashi right up his tailpipes as they went by one of the GT cars. It's one of the hardpoint Porsches, I think. One of the EBM cars. Prototype clear off so quickly, don't they? Sorry, it's the FAF Porsche. My apologies that they went by. Do you know? Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
I thought the number 12 car, by the way, he has managed to stay on the lead lap, but he's quite a long way behind even the number 75 car now.
Just a thought, Jeremy. You're hanging it all out, running fast laps like mad, in you know, getting down to lap record pace in the leading FAF Motorsports Porsche, Lawrence Vanter. He's wringing the neck of that GT Daytona Porsche, and 3 prototypes go past him and disappear at the distance like he's chained to a post. And it's, you know, you forget how quick these prototypes are until you put them with other cars. You could race a full grid of prototypes and it would look spectacular, but nothing looks better than when you've got mixed category racing, and in your head a Porsche GT3 or a Corvette GT Le Mans cars, they're fast cars, and they are being blown away, particularly through the fast S's at the back of the circuit, because of the downforce of those prototypes. Absolutely brilliant stuff. IMSA take a bow for DPI and effectively LMDH. That's IMSA's solution. It's been successful, it is successful, and hopefully it will continue to be successful with the new manufacturers that are coming in. Acura confirmed to be staying in, Porsche and Audi on their way, and we wait to find out which GM product will be represented, and the opportunity for other manufacturers as well to come in